Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another edition of the Kast, and I'm here with Paradise Central and TwoSixNine. How you guys doing?
Good.
Really good. Excited to be back. We got so much we could talk about, so I'm counting on you to rein us in and take us through the topics, because like there's a lot of games and stuff going on.
Rein us in, dude. Like I'll just upload a 5-hour video. I don't give a damn. I do the opposite of reining us in. Did you guys not pay attention to like the official thing on Monster? I felt like I spoke more than most of the other. I just kept going, and I was like, I had to like stop myself. Like, hey, stop! You're hogging all the airtime. It's not fair. That was a fun time, but I guess we should start by talking a little bit about the trip. Thank you both very much for being so accommodating while I was there. It was awesome hanging out, going over to old rainy Britain, even though it didn't really rain that much while I was there. I was lucky.
Yeah, you need to come over during the summer. The summer is like actually crazy hot nowadays, so it's a bit bakey, especially how our houses are not built to get the heat out and stuff. It ends up like being really hot in houses and stuff, so you end up getting cooked.
London is nuts. You get hot. Yeah. It's hotter in London than like anywhere else. Yeah.
Like we were in that train station at Piccadilly Circus, I think. That thing was hot as hell, and I was like, it is freezing outside, but in here it's really hot. I thought it was AC, but you're like, no, it's just like this. I was like, wait, what?
It's the tunnels, yeah.
Summertime, that'll be nice and toasty in there.
I
Rurikhan on tour.
Yeah, and you got some good like tourist pictures from it.
I actually realized I didn't take any pictures while I was there, because I just forgot about it. I was like, oh, I'm just having so much fun, and then suddenly Eric just goes like, hey, let's take a picture, and I was like, damn, I didn't take any pictures. Yep. I wish I'd taken at least one with Jono so that everybody could see what I mean when I say that he's a goddamn giant.
He's huge.
Yeah, he is tall, and he's been at the gym, so he's big as well.
Yeah, but go ahead, Paradise. You were saying?
I was just gonna say, since now I've had the pleasure of meeting you in person, I always find it interesting meeting different people, whether it's just online friends or creators in person, to see if they're any different. You know what I mean?
Am I very different in person?
No, I can say Rurikhan seems pretty genuine to me. He was Rurikhan in person as well, which I absolutely loved, and we had a blast, didn't we?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was just a bit of a downgrade from our venue.
Oh yeah, well, that was a whole kerfuffle, wasn't
it? I was told by Alex, it's like, hey, listen, we're gonna go to this place called Eat Tokyo, and I was like, oh, this sounds nice. This is gonna be great. Turns out we didn't go there.
It is nice. I will say it is nice that if we manage to go,
it's good to know.
Next time.
We were a little bit late because you guys were like designing the pawn and doing all of that stuff. It was your fault. I blame Paradise for this, and Eric's for making us go all the way through London in rush hour.
Yeah, Friday night, rush hour London. That's not even something that I get to experience very often, and it was pretty chaotic, wasn't it?
It was interesting though, because like I feel like I've rode the metro more in the UK than I have in Portugal. I just drive everywhere in Portugal. just drive everywhere. Problem solved. But yeah, it was great. We got to hang out, and it was nice knowing you guys in person as well, because it is very different. And I always like to say that it's one of the great pleasures in life to get to hang out with people that you like. So to me, that was awesome. I had a fantastic time. I hope that next time I get to stay a little bit longer, though, because it was a shotgun trip, pretty much. I was there literally one day, left 5 a.m. Next day, I'm out.
It must have ruined you, like, sleep-wise and everything.
Oh,
just like being that busy, you know?
It absolutely destroyed me. And then we're rushing because we played Dragon's Dogma 2, right? And it's like we had, what was it, 2 days? It was 2 days to get our previews sorted. And I was like, I'm so tired. I can't even like speak eloquently because your brain is just so fatigued. Usually I do stuff like unscripted. I know that you guys, at least it seems to me like you do a lot of scripting in the videos and stuff. I do stuff. I do stuff mostly unscripted, and I was like, I cannot formulate more than 3 sentences in a row because I'm exhausted. So I start scripting it out. And then when I actually saw the video after I uploaded, I was like, I spent like 4 minutes talking about the trip. on this preview video for Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm 4 minutes talking about the trip.
It's all part of the experience, though.
You loved it. That's what I like to hear. I was worried if you were going to like it or not, but like,
I mean, of course, it was awesome.
Short period of time that you enjoyed yourself over there. You got to see all the sights. You got to.
Oh yeah, all the sites.
All the sites. The underground and Piccadilly Circus, that was about it.
Capcom headquarters as well.
Capcom
headquarters is awesome too. They actually
actually go around all the rooms, by the way, when you actually because you got in there before us.
No.
They've got like different decals in all the meeting rooms, and it's pretty cool.
I only got to go to the room that we were in to do the recording, and somebody actually asked me. I think it was the Tom, the brand manager for Dragon's Dogma. He was asking me if I could name all the monsters in the wall, and I looked around and I was like, I can name all the big monsters. Small ones, not so much, but the big ones, I was like, yeah, I can name all these. This is not a problem at all.
Yeah. I like how nice the Capcom representatives are. Sometimes you get, guys, little industry secret here. Sometimes you get these like people that work at these companies, and even though they're like might be community managers or PR, they just don't know how to talk or interact with people, and it just makes the whole job like so much longer. But these ones at Capcom, they got jokes. They got some knowledge. They got the stuff for us to do, and it's all good. It's a smooth experience.
It felt like they actually played the game.
Yeah, that's it. You know? That's it.
I was just surprised that the preview build that we played was kind of like set up for Magic Archer and Mystic Spearhand. And I remember I get there and I was like, well, what if I wanted to play something else? Like, you do whatever you want. I was like, oh, okay. That's cool. You can play whatever you want. Oh, all right. That was nice. But yeah, we got around, the three of us played Dragon's Dogma 2. And then we even shared footage and whatnot, which was cool actually seeing the yeet thing, because I didn't notice that. That's why you guys were laughing so hard. At the time, I didn't notice. The Mystic Spearhand yeet where it just goes like, boom!
The coolest thing in the whole game so far. I love that move.
You guys know that there's a massive disadvantage to that move, though? You don't get loot.
Because you're like stationary for ages.
Oh, yeah, you don't
get loot when you do that. It actually says in the skill description... Because somebody apparently uploaded all of the skills. I'm not going to name any names, but somebody uploaded all of the skills straight up. And I was like, oh, this is a good reference.
I don't know how that happens. They literally were like, do not show menus. Yeah, let me show a whole video with the menu.
Even when we were capturing, we wanted to go through the menus just to get an understanding of things, and they were like, take as much time as you want and go through it. You can't show any of it. So you've got only this amount of time to capture stuff. You can spend the whole time in the menus, but you can't show it.
Yeah, so I saw all the skills, and that skill specifically said you miss out on the loot when you yeet small monsters. But it's almost kind of worth it. So I grabbed you guys' footage, and I put it with a Goofy scream in the background. So, yo!
There's just so many like comical moments in that game in general, and that's why, as someone that didn't play Dragon's Dogma 1 going into it, kind of has.
You didn't play Dragon's Dogma 1?
No, I didn't.
You fake fan.
Look about that. That's it. I'll be a fake fan, you gatekeeper.
I remember when people came out after you for some reason in Generations Ultimate saying that you were a fake fan or something. I was like, what the hell is wrong with you people?
They were like, oh, I never played What's on a game.
Yeah, it's every game. It doesn't matter the game, we hear it. It's fake fan, or you didn't really play the first one, or you don't really like it as much as I do. And I just want to play. I play my games. I played the first one though, I will say. So I at least have the knowledge of the first one, and 2.6 I'm really excited as a DD1 fan to see 2.6 experience it for himself in a game that many of us have been waiting like a decade for. It's like 12 years, right?
Yep.
For me, it's more around 10. So.
Oh, so you didn't really play the first one, right? That came out because I did. Yeah. I'm the real fan. Oh yes, I'm the one.
Well, look, I don't need to play that dead original game because this is their proper vision. Isn't Dragon's Dogma 2 like a re-envisioning of the original idea? So I am not tarnished by the old game. How about that? Going in fresh and amazing.
The reality is, like, if somebody asked me, hey, should I play Dragon's Dogma 1 right before I play Dragon's Dogma 2, I'd probably say no. You should have played it before, and now it's a little bit late. Now you should play the second one.
There it is.
You should really just go after the second one at this point, because there's just a lot of quality of life stuff and a lot of improvements. And at least I'm expecting a lot of improvements, particularly in the story, because in the first one, I remember the very first time I played it, I got lost very early, not early on, but like, you know how you've played it, Paradise, so you know how in the beginning there's a little bit of guidance as to what you're supposed to do in the story, and then the game just says,
you
like...
start in like that little village, then you go to a little fort, then you go to the city, and then the real fun begins.
Yeah, and then the game just goes like, and now just do whatever the hell you want. And at the time, because this was shortly after I bought my PS3, but at the time I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I have no idea. I was just running around the map and killing random stuff that I encountered until I eventually found the story thread to follow again. But it took a very long time. But I'm hoping...
It can be dangerous as well. There are some areas that you are not meant to go to early on.
Yeah.
Like, if you right at the start of the game, you can either go straight onto the fort, which is where you're meant to go, and that continues the story. There's like a hill that goes into an adjacent area of the map, which you can just go up, and a big boulder rolls down the hill. It's quite a memorable area of the map, but you can just go there right at the start, and it's like the biggest wall in the game. You've just started, you made your character, you got out of the town, you killed that first Cyclops. If you got up that hill with the boulder, there's a group of mercenaries, and then more groups of mercenaries that would absolutely wreck your day.
They will annihilate
that's my first memory of Dragon's Dogma. It's like, what's up this hill? Oh god, a giant boulder! And then you run up, and it's just the most powerful human mercenaries you've experienced up until that point. And that is a good memory that sticks with me.
The memory for me was like, I remember being stuck in a mine because I was trying to do some random quest that I picked up. So I went through that mine that's supposed to be like a shortcut, but you have to clear it first. And so there's ogres there, or at least one,
2 or 3.
There's 2 or 3, yeah. And so I'm fighting ogres for the first time, and they just like drop kick you into a wall, and then you're trying to get up, and he just drop kicks you again. And I was like, what is going on? And then suddenly, because I had a female pawn in my party, he starts jumping up and down, and it's like, it gets excited by the sight of women. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, that is in the game. Yeah.
What?
You didn't know that? 2-6?
No.
So there's
They
like...
go after the females.
They go after the females, and they grab them and take them away. That's the thing. Yeah, they grab them and they take them away, and they go to like a corner. Then you have to go chase them down. And
it's crazy.
It's funny because then they added a variant of it, I think, later in the game, which is like some type of albino ogre or something. And those like men, so they will grab your male characters. It's excited by the sight of men, and then they'll grab the male character and run off.
What is this kinky game that you guys are introducing me to? What is this?
No,
it's like Goblin Slayer all over again.
It was really fun. And the thing about it was like finding out the weakness to every monster. So like the first time you'd fight a Cyclops, you'd be like, oh, this is a tough monster. This is kind of like hard to beat. And then you realize, wait, it's weak to lightning. So you take a mage with lightning, he strikes him once with lightning, and the Cyclops goes, I don't feel so good. And you can just beat the crap out of it while he's like staggered from the lightning. There was all types of strategies. It was really good.
Yeah, or like stabbing him in the eye until you... I think if you actually like hit him in the eye enough, it dropped like his eye as a material, which is like an upgrade part for different armor.
That too.
But just another memorable thing, which I won't go into detail on, but the final boss fight in Dragon's Dogma 1 is so epic.
Grigori?
Like that... Yeah.
I just want to make sure it was Grigori and not Bitter Black Isle, because I forget his name.
But that's... I mean, that... You know, you get that in Dragon's Dogma if you buy it now, because it's like bundled all together.
Yeah.
And there are some like the harder versions of all the monsters are in there, but like the story boss being like, you know, the Dragon or whatever.
The Grigori fight is
which you could do online as well. It had like a weird
no.
That's
a different one. That's the Dragon. There's the Dragon and there's Grigori. Grigori is the actual. It's not really the final boss, but it's one of the final things because he's the dragon that steals your heart. But then there's the Dragon, which was like this undead dragon that you needed the whole community to fight at the same time to actually bring him down.
Yeah, they both like merged together in my mind, but it was the one where you're running across like the wall and there's the towers and the dragon's like swooping over and breathing fire.
That's Grigori. Yeah, that's Grigori.
But
the online one was the Dragon, which was a different thing.
Yeah.
But the cool thing to give people an idea, because this game came out on PS3, the Grigori fight was so massive. It had a loading screen in between, in the middle of the action. Like you mount, I think it was something like you mount the dragon or something, and then he starts flying away, and then there's a loading screen, and you're like, and then the game loads in, and you're in the back of the dragon, and you're fighting and whatnot. It was really weird. It's kind of like this thing that really broke down the momentum a little bit, but it was still so amazing. Such a fantastic.
Well, that's why I have really high hopes for the second one, particularly like of how the story will conclude and just the epicness of what some of these fights will hopefully be, because that is one that you just don't forget. You know, it's like some Monster Hunter fights or sieges, you just don't forget them. It's the same in Dragon's Dogma.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that a lot of people are going to be enjoying this for a very long time, but I feel like we got to tackle one of the more controversial aspects of it, because there's a lot of people that are upset about this. So let's tackle it from the get-go. Those 30 FPS, man. God damn it. 30 FPS. Literally unplayable. I can't stand it. So that was the thing that we experienced in our particular setup. The game was running like 1080p 30 FPS. But I've heard from other content creators that in their preview, they were playing at 4K 30 FPS. So
okay.
I'm assuming maybe on our end it might have been the monitors or something. I don't know, whatever, something like that. But basically, the 30 FPS is a big concern for a lot of people, and I understand, because like I'm going to be playing on PC, so probably I should be able to get 60 FPS. But how did you guys feel about the overall like performance of the game on PS5?
You want to take this one? You're gonna go light on it because you.
I love how you both like just passed off.
Yeah,
we don't want to talk about this.
No, I definitely want to talk about this one. But
okay, go ahead.
When it comes down to the FPS, obviously you want to target like 60 FPS for any action game, because the more responsive your frame rate is, the better your inputs are going to be, and all of that good stuff. But I will say, from what I played, it wasn't as impactful as 30 FPS in other games. It felt still good to play. I think that's the most important part, but I don't think it's acceptable for them to be coming out with a game that is like 30 FPS. But it's not going to be like you pick up the game on day one and you're going to be like, this is unplayable or unenjoyable. It's still going to be an experience that you can fully enjoy even at 30 FPS if you're not a performance advocate or someone that's like in love with 60 FPS games and can't play anything else. But at the end of the day, if you're whining about that, you should have a PC. In my eyes, if you're really a performance god, then you should be on PC. You should be getting that great monitor. You should have that crazy setup so you can get as much FPS as possible. If you're that way inclined. Obviously not everybody can do that because PCs are expensive, but try to aim for that, because playing in 1440p on PC with a good frame rate is like my go-to. So yeah.
How about you, Paradise?
I mean, mostly the same. I mean, at least it's uncapped, but does that work as a negative? Because then it's a bit more variable, and when it's a bit more variable, you feel it a bit more. I can only speak from the 2 times we played the game at those 2 previews. I wouldn't say it felt like a problem. I think there was, in the last preview, there was one very slight dip in FPS that I felt, which was when we were fighting the Drake and the Cyclops together. There was like, I think the Drake was casting lightning as the monster was slamming, as a pawn was casting something, and I did feel a slight performance dip there. That's the only performance like hitch dip or whatever that I felt that sort of takes you out of the immersion. But everything else to me felt pretty smooth. And there are some games, like 2Six was saying, where if you're playing on that 30, it just doesn't feel good and your inputs feel a bit delayed and it's sluggish. And I wasn't getting that vibe personally when I was playing it. I think we're going to try and play on PC as well anyway, just because that's easier for capture, content creator things, and we've got pretty beefy PCs, so we want to make use of them. But yeah, there's a lot of other games that are like stuck in 30 as well. I get it as a new game coming out. I am a big champion of 60 FPS in games anyway. I think particularly you feel it when you, like, if I think of a more recent game, Monster Hunter Rise, you play that on Switch, you play that on PC, it feels to me very night and day difference. Yeah, and I've not played the game on PC, so I don't know if that's the same for Dragon's Dogma 2, but it shows the how amazing playing something on a good PC with a good refresh rate, with a high resolution and frame rate, like the difference it actually makes. So I can feel for people that are upset. I don't know if like 26 was saying, if it's too founded when so many other console games, are like locked at 30 or have these like performance modes that allow some games to go a little bit higher, but they're still variable. I can't think, like, I could just be blanking, but I can't think of that many recent games that have come out that have been like a perfect 60 FPS and looked amazing on console.
Yeah, because like one of the recent examples that we even have would be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it was interesting because I always choose the performance option, and Rebirth was actually one of the first times where, because so many people were saying, "Oh, you should you should check out the graphics mode," and I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll check it out." And I put on graphics mode. I was like, "Oh damn, this is very different. I'm not sure if this might not be the first time that I'm willing to compromise on those extra 30 FPS to get this graphical fidelity, because the game does look significantly better in 4K. So that was like one of the first times that I was very, this is kind of a big deal, actually. Although they say that they're improving on it, so hopefully that'll be something that can be sorted out a little bit more, but still. Now, in my case, I didn't really feel any particular latency. I did feel the occasional dip here and there whenever there was a lot of explosions on screen. Like, for instance, when you get the golem laser that then is followed by a bunch of explosions, right? I noticed a little bit of a dip there. I also noticed when I was fighting the Drake, whenever he was breathing fire, because the fire animation is very intense, I guess. I also noticed a couple of dips there. But it wasn't something where, oh my God, this frame rate is completely unplayable, right? It was still fine. It was still very much playable. So to me, when it comes to that stuff, it's more like, I will never not play a game that I want to play just because it's 30 FPS, but I would always say 60 would be better. Even more would be even better. More frames is always better. Always. Unlike some of the people that say, oh, you can't even tell the difference. I've seen posts of people saying the majority of people can't even tell the difference, and I was like, source, where's the source of that? Where'd you pull that from? Please, you're crazy.
So is there not going to be any performance mode for like 60 FPS on like console, or is it just literally locked 30? Like,
I don't know, because we didn't really waste any time. At least I didn't waste any time looking at settings. I was just like, no, I want to capture gameplay. I just wanted to play the game. So I even wanted to know, like, if you could rebind some of the buttons, and I didn't even look that up, because I was just like, no, I just need to capture.
I think there's a difference as well. Like, I can understand the 30v60 plus argument for games, because when you're playing a game and you're turning a camera and you're controlling something, it is definitely a noticeable thing. Going from 30 to 60 or under 30, it's all noticeable.
Yeah.
But then you have like different media, like videos and movies, where I think, and that's why a lot of big movies are still on the lower frame rate, going back to Legacy when they were done on film, and it'd be like 24 FPS, because in a movie it's a set scene, they control the movement, they control what you're seeing in that moment, so it's not it's the cinematic experience at like 24 FPS, but in a game you feel it.
Yeah, you do a lot. So in regards to the stats stuff, which is actually one of the things that I was going to completely blank out on, but luckily Paradise came in and he was like, what about the stats? How does stats work? And it was funny because
the question like 5 times. He's like, what about those stats? Does the stats work in that way? And he just never knew like the...
it was interesting because it almost felt like they weren't understanding the question.
Yeah.
But like, my conclusion was, from what I saw, is that the stats are static across all vocations. As in, when you level up, each vocation has their own set of stats. So like a warrior at level 50 is always going to have, 50 strength, 25 dexterity, whatever. So always going to have the same ones, right? And if you swap vocations, those stats swap as well, right? That was the same conclusion that you reached, right?
Yeah, so I would just... What you're saying is correct. I would describe it a little differently in that you have, from what I saw, you have like base stats, and then you have vocation stats. And stat growth is still in the game, in that if I play a fighter and I level up, I'm going to gain stats that are attuned to a fighter. However, like you said, the stat growth is tied to the vocation, not the player character. So when you switch, you just reload the stat growth for that new character. So if you go from a fighter to a mage, your strength goes down, your magic goes up, and vice versa. And that to me promotes an easier time switching and trying out the other vocations, which I personally like, because I always feel like Dragon's Dogma 1, you didn't need to min-max. There was none of the content in the game was hard enough that it required you to min-max. I would even say that for the Bitter Isle, you know, the very post-game stuff. Obviously, it would help you a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's needed. That being said, am I the only one that feels like I'm kind of missing out if I leveled up as a mage and then was like, I want to play a warrior, and then I've just got all these dead stats. I don't have as much strength and health, as I want. So I actually have done multiple playthroughs in the past of Dragon's Dogma, and I vividly remember one where I tried to min-max, and I was just playing classes that I didn't want to play. I wasn't really feeling it. I wasn't too happy. I was like, oh, well, I'm going to do it for the stats anyway. At least I'm getting the augments along the way. And then what ends up happening is after so many hours, like, you just feel like, I'm just not having fun. I'm just going to either just play the class I want to play and forget about it and just take the L, or you just give up on the game because you've just like been burnt out from leveling other classes that you don't want to play.
Now, let me tell you how you do it. You get a class that you need to level up that happens to be a ranged class. Actually, I don't even think it needs to be a ranged class. It can be any class. But there was something that you could do at a very specific point in the game where you would go up to a location where there's constantly guards spawning and attacking you, and you put your character on top of a little wall, and it just stays there, and your pawns just murder everybody, and then you just leave it there and you go do something else.
A little AFK farm.
the early game trickster, the OG trickster class.
I remember that I did that because I saw somewhere online that you could do that. This was like my third or fourth playthrough, and I wanted to do the min-max thing. And I was like, oh, I'll just put my character here, and my pawns will just be here all night long while I'm sleeping, farming away. And then you wake up and you're level 100 something, whatever. And I was like, there you go. That's all the farming done. Boom, done. Which, yeah, I don't think it was a good thing. I think it's better if, you get whatever stats you want. Then the only thing that you need to mess with is the gear. You just got to get them geared up, and then you're good to go. I think that's way better, because that way people don't... Because the stat growths was also... at different intervals. So like the stat growth from 1 to 10 was one thing. Then I think it was like from 10 to 100 was another thing. There was like 100 to 120. And it was different stat growths at these different levels. So it's like, okay, so you want to make a damage dealing Mystic Knight. You got to level up as a sorcerer for 200 levels.
Yeah, that was it.
And like, so I want to play this melee class, and you're telling me that I need to play 200 levels of a mage class. Seems reasonable.
I have three things to say though. The first thing is, it was a preview. We looked at the stats ourselves. We did ask the staff, so we're fairly sure we understand how it works. But obviously things can change. Yeah. We could have been told something wrong, so I wouldn't say this is 100% set in stone until we have the full game. It's just from what we observed at the preview and what we asked. The second thing I'll say is, I love the Magic Archer from the first game, and it had like the worst stat growth. So you would never want to have any level ups in the Magic Archer if you actually wanted to have good stats. And you could play these like hybrid vocations fairly early in the game, once you got to the main city sort of area. So the excitement of like, I can jump on my class right now if you want to be underpowered.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I will say, as a devil's advocate, although I like the new change, I can see why some people would be upset with it, because it did give you more like control and customization of your character. You could kind of make a little bit of it could factor into your build, because these are permanent stats on your character. Some people liked this system, and if it is what we've seen, then obviously it's gone. I obviously feel bad that people are going to miss that system, but I do just think it makes it easier for people to get into, to experiment and try different vocations.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Me being a Dragon's Dogma noob, and the way that the industry is at the moment and the gaming landscape, you guys are not thinking about it because you're Dragon's Dogma veterans, but I feel like they probably have like a little respec system in there as well, so you can properly min-max.
You mean so have the old school system and then a respec in the middle? Yeah, that could.
No, so you can like tailor your points to where you want them to be as well, because one of the things that you can see that they're doing across the board in this game is trying to give players options and variety and play the way that they want to. Like, I think the Wayfarer, is that the way one? Warfarer really speaks to that, and like having options, and the Trickster being there as a class that's almost like a way to play if you wanted to be more of like a pacifist, and the archer class being just an archer now, and this class being more of like a thief being more of a thief and stuff like that. They're really dialing into particular playstyle, so I feel like there might be systems in place. Maybe when you go see your vocation man, your meister that's wandering around the world, maybe at the end game there's something like that. So that's my speculation, completely theoretical, but maybe
respecing and allow you to manually allocate your stats. That could be interesting, because then you could still have the thing that everybody else wants. I was thinking maybe they could have done something when you're creating your character that would just allow you to choose classic stat growth, new stat growth. That would also be a way to do it. So that the people that really want to have that experience, they could still have it. But I think that would also be very confusing for somebody who's starting fresh in Dragon's Dogma 2. They jump into character creation, and then at the end it's like, okay, so you want classic stat growth or new stat growth? And they're like, what the hell are they talking about? It's like, this is insane. How do you expect me to know these things? Not to mention that this would come after you already having spent like 6 hours in the character creator to begin with, because that thing.
And it's an amazing character creator.
It is. Have you guys spent any time on it, on the character creator?
I was watching Toxie build her character yesterday. She obviously made a character and actually posted it on Twitter. That's me basically in the game.
I saw it.
Like, oh bloody hell, that's 2-6. You got him right there. That's absolutely perfect. But yeah, it's no like how in depth it is, and if you look on the Dragon's Dogma like Reddit, you can just see so many like cool looking characters. Capcom games, kind of 50-50 on the character creator sometimes, so it's nice to see that they've like really dived in the deep end with this one and created like some crazy system. Hopefully it's the standard moving forward. Hopefully we get that in Wilds.
I've loved the character creator on the first Dragon's Dogma has always been one of my highest rated character creators ever, because in a lot of video games, they don't let you mess with the height of your character. Like even Monster Hunter, no, every hunter is like this tall. Every single one of them, okay? The standard height, they're mass produced, and everybody's the exact same height. In other games, they let you mess around like a couple of millimeters up or down. In Dragon's Dogma, I was like, no, I can just make a dwarf. I want to make a dwarf, and I get to make a dwarf, and that was really cool.
Yeah, and you can even, I've seen people make like a goblin. I've seen handsome Squidward. I've seen Michael Jackson. I've seen the range, And what I will say is, I just initially planned to just, make my character look a bit like me and just go in. But now with all these creations, I'm kind of thinking I might have to make some celebrity or something and just play through the game as Mads Mikkelsen or something,
Yeah, there's a lot of. I've already seen like a post that I've also retweeted that had Michael Jackson on there, Walter White, and a bunch of other like celebrities and iconic characters and stuff like that. I was very surprised with how in depth people are actually going with it. There's even like I've heard of like an app that people are using to put someone's face like superimposed onto the character creator and then start designing around that. And I was like, you guys are taking this to a whole. This is no longer this is Photoshop now. This is just like Photoshop somebody's face onto this character creator, and somehow they managed to make it work. So that's cool.
I think with how good it is, it's a missed opportunity to have like a community upload and download, or some kind of built-in mechanism so that you can like view the top character creations and download them to have players them and stuff like that.
I think there's going to be like codes and stuff. I think.
Yeah, you get IDs that you can download other people's one. You just put in the IDs and stuff like that, which is pretty cool.
I think there's going to be something like that. I've only messed with it to make my pawn so far. I haven't even made my Arisen. I need to get on that. But yeah.
Your starting location? What are you gonna fighter?
No, because my pawn's going to be fighter. So I can't be the same vocation as my pawn. It'd be weird. So I'm probably going to be a thief, because I like the blasting powder thing. Because the assassin had a blasting powder on the first Dragon's Dogma. The really cool thing about assassins is that they could use shields, and then they would have that parry move where you would parry an attack, and your character would do a not a backflip, but like a front flip over your target, and then you could attack from behind.
Wow.
So I was like, I want to be this squash buckling fighter. And then you also had the blasting powder thing where you would stab them with friggin' gunpowder or something, and then it detonates and it explodes. So it's almost like a gun lance.
Yeah, I see why you like it. Yes. I was literally about to say that.
Explosions.
The thief, it can in the description it says it can steal from NPCs and stuff. Which even I asked about this in our preview, and the guys there were like, "Can it?" And then they checked the website and they're like, "Oh, it does say that." So it might be the only class that can like pickpocket, which again we don't know how that works. No one has shown that in action anywhere, but it says that on the website.
Dude, I'm gonna rip everybody off. This is fantastic.
And it has a built-in mechanic with its like triangle attack, which I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I remember it was described in game as you can do this attack like while clinging on to a monster that allows you to also do some weapon skills or something while like instead of just climbing, I think you're like stabbing your way up the back of it and you can do weapon skills or something. So I think it is a class that excels at clinging onto a monster, which is really fun to do in Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, I'm a stab him basically.
Yeah.
But so I'm actually curious. 2-6. I guess this wasn't the first time that you've played it because you played it on the previous preview event that you guys got to go to. But what was it like considering that you did not play the original? How does it feel to play Dragon's Dogma for the first time?
So I think we have to go. The concept of Dragon's Dogma for me has been like a weird one, and the reason that I didn't play the first one is because I was like, what is this game? It looks like Monster Hunter. It looks cool, but I don't want to play it because it doesn't have co-op. And then now getting hands-on with it, I understand why the game is not co-op, because the experience that you get from being with your pawns and being the NPC is kind of what Dragon's Dogma is all about. It's an adventure that you get in and you kind of control the world, and it's a kind of emergent gameplay. The actual gameplay itself, I thought it was just going to be a trod adventure through something and you're just like fighting a dragon, but going there, playing it, and then like NPCs coming up to you and be like, "Hey, I've got a little quest for you. Hello, traveler." And then you like going on an adventure and then forging some stuff and then cheating this person and jumping on the back of a goblin and a dragon talking to you. I was like, what? Dragons speak to you in this game? This is sick and stuff like that. So the actual overall experience was it wasn't what I was expecting. So going into it, I think a lot more people are going to like this game than they think they are going to like it. Like they're thinking it's just some basic RPG. It's actually got a lot of depth and it's more about emergent gameplay. It's more similar to Breath of the Wild in that way, where people are it's a sandboxy type game than more so a traditional RPG, which is something that people don't really explain to you as someone that is a noob. So yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And they're doubling down on that by basically letting monsters do all kinds of unscripted things, which is why when I got out of town for the first time, I'm fighting 2 Cyclopses, and then suddenly there's a griffin that just shows up, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so now I'm fighting these 3 monsters, and suddenly the Cyclopses are like, you know what? I've had just about enough of this griffin. And they both just start wailing on him. They gang up on the griffin and start beating on him. I was like, what? Why?
Yeah, I really like games that have like systems in it that are layered on. Just a cool system that you said that they've introduced, or and you kind of pointed out, is that we can push over the big like ogres and the cyclopses as well. And it's like, that is a system that you wouldn't necessarily see in another game. And then the fact that your pawns can also do it, like push them over, and then the pawn, like we literally saw a big ogre hit his head on a wall because he got pushed over by a pawn. And I was just like, that is so cool. That is even like a thing in a game.
And they take a significant amount of damage from those when they go all ragdoll and hit the walls and stuff. They take a decent chunk of damage. And the noise it made was so satisfying. There's this cracking sound right as he smashes his face into the rocks. And I was like, yes. It's kind of like Part Breaker in Monster Hunter. I'm like, yes, I love that sound.
Yeah, and the NPCs from the recent showcase, which they explained a little bit about how they all have like different like bravery levels. So some NPCs, if they get near a fight, like you're fighting a monster and an NPC walks past, some of them might just charge in and join you for the fight. Other ones might just run away in fear. And every NPC has this kind of hidden meter as to how they will interact with a monster, and you can just pull monsters into town and cities to make, you know, on one hand it's like, oh, let me bring this griffin into the town, I can get help killing it. On the other hand, it might just kill a bunch of NPCs, and then you're not going to be able to get them back very easily unless you use your precious wake stones, which we know from the first game were very precious. So it'd be interesting to see how like common those are as well, because we did actually manage to find a shard of one in our preview.
But, you guys found one?
Like yeah, and you need 3 to make a wake stone, and they weren't common in the first game. So, or you could buy some shards, but they were really expensive as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that actually plays out, because you can revive them. It's just with a rare item.
Are you ready for one of our videos that we're going to make, or that I'm going to make for us? It's going to be killing everybody in a Dragon's Dogma world. Robbing them first.
Murdering an entire city, because why not?
Yeah.
Reason, we felt like it. So, 2-6, what's going to be your first vocation? Because this is the first time that you're kind of like introduced to these vocations. Like, which one called out the most to you from the ones you've seen so far?
All of them look actually pretty good, but I think I'm probably going to join you on the thief because it looks the coolest. So we're going to be buddies.
No, but the thing is, I'm starting as a thief, but the objective is going to be Mystic Spearhand the second I can.
Oh, easily.
Yeah. It's so cool. It seems so OP compared to the other classes of Mystic Spearhands, particularly with the fact that even though it can't roll or like dodge out the way or block or parry or whatever, it has that shield that essentially makes it immune to all damage. So as long as you're keeping that up, you should be good. I want to see how like a pawn, I know a pawn can't be that because it's arisen, but like if there's anything similar for the other classes, or if you can maybe cast it on other characters.
I mean, the shield is AoE. If you're close enough to if you're close enough to your pawns, it will cast it on them as well.
Crazy. I didn't even notice that. Busted.
Yeah, it's really good. The thing is, it takes up a skill slot. That's the balance, because you only get 4 skill slots. So having that defensive option, that's 1 skill slot gone.
Yeah. But if you're not dying, then it doesn't really matter, right? You're going to get the damage off on your other skills anyway. And like, it's not even like, oh, it's missing a skill and it doesn't have like a good basic combo. It's literally got that whirly thing that just does damage anyway. The thing where you spin around you like your dual bladed dagger sword thing.
Twin blade. Cool. It's called a
twin blade. Twin blade.
It's called the duo spear.
Ah, there you go.
The duo spear, really? I thought it was called the twin blade.
On the website they call it the geosphere, and they say like it uses the unique weapon. So that's what I've read.
What vocation are you shooting for, Paradise?
So obviously this was a really hard choice.
Oh yeah.
I always went Strider in DD1, and now that's split into 2. Which again, I don't quite like that they've split it. I don't quite like that the Magic Archer doesn't have his daggers. I get it from unique classes and different ways to play these classes and make them more fleshed out in their own individual things.
Interestingly enough, the Strider was a super unique class, because you don't have a lot of games where it's like, oh, I can just stab up a monster with my daggers, and then if it moves away, I can pelt him with my bow. It was actually a super efficient way of playing it. And it was unique.
I had so much fun. It was my go-to starter class for almost every playthrough, regardless of like the min-maxing, just because it was too much fun. That's split now. And bearing in mind, I'm also going for Mystic Spearhand just because of how fun it is, and that is a
you can't
class.
It's mine.
Dibs. Bearing in mind it's red and blue, it makes me think, okay, I should probably play a mage or a warrior to start getting those augments that will hopefully be helpful. So I'm pretty sure warrior is like, based on various preview footage, looks like it has like increased strength, more carry weight, maybe like more likelihood to be attacked and stuff like that for its augments.
Damn.
And your mage is going to have, I think there is one to do with stamina recovery speed, which is also going to be good for Mystic Span because it gets through that stamina with those skills. I'm leaning towards warrior. I think I will probably go warrior. Again, remember that preview with the griffin where I was playing the warrior and I got flown back to its nest and it was like we were super underpowered, but I almost took it down. So that made me think, oh, warrior's going to be so much fun.
Actually,
what I will say for you guys though, real quick, is the thief. The augments are looking pretty spicy on it as well. So you have stuff like extended stamina. I think you have reduced stamina cost while like holding enemies or climbing. So they all have different augments that spec into some really cool stuff.
I need to play those too then, Thief and Warrior, until I get the Mystic Spearhand for sure.
Yeah, so for me, it's all about the augments, thinking ahead, you know.
Yeah.
But I will probably go for the warrior, the fighter, to be honest.
The fighter. So it's not even the warrior, the fighter.
Sorry, the warrior is the advanced one. The fighter is the starter one. So I'll probably be starting as the fighter and then switching into Mystic Spearhand. Yeah.
Yeah, the fighter is the one with sword and shield. I was actually initially thinking about playing the fighter, but after playing that Mystic Spearhand, it's like, bro, no, it's too much fun. It's just so much fun. And I was using like the gap closer skill to jump over cliffs and stuff. You can get a lot of distance with that thing. You can really just like navigate the map. I think I also used that on the Mystic Knight, because the Mystic Knight also had one where he would jump in the air and then yeet himself forward, kind of.
Oh, yeah. That was
I think I used that one to navigate the map as well in the original one, so that was really, really good. Now,
you just made me think of a Mystic Knight skill that we're probably, unless it is secretly in the game, we're probably not going to get them. You put down the ball of like magic and you like, and it just flings like crazy magic everywhere. That move was nuts.
Yeah, So 26, to give you an idea, right? So there's this thing that you can put down, which is a little ball, and the ball, then you beat on the ball, and the ball shoots out like these little orbs that are like homing, right? So what you would be able to do is you could put 3 of those balls on top of each other, and then when you swing once, it would shoot 3 balls. But that's not the end of it, because then the Mystic Knight also had another thing that you could dark enchant your weapon. And what that would do is every hit that you would do would count as like 2 hits. And then you hit that, and now it's double.
Busted.
So the only problem with that is that the orbs would eventually like, they would time out. So that's why I had to do it super fast. I had to be like 1, 2, 3, enchant weapon. And then once you hit it on the PlayStation 3, the frames would drop to like 5. You'd start hearing like... And then there was another one that was even worse, which is some monsters will do hits that will count as multiple hits. And so if you're a Mystic Knight, you can also enchant your shield so that when somebody hits you, it attacks back. So you'd put 3 of those things down, and then you'd enchant your shield with like fire or something, and then the monster would come with its multi-hit attack, and you just hear all of those hits hitting your shield all at once, and all of the orbs firing out like... You
can see why people are upset that this class hasn't been announced in the game.
Yeah, so I have a question as a Dragon's Dogma noob. Like, Thief looks good, right? What do I do since there's not an advanced vocation for Thief? I'm going to be going Trickster for like the class that I go into.
Oh, interesting.
But say if I wanted to go and stay Thief, what do I do?
You just play Thief. Because like, even though they're not advanced vocations, you're not missing out on anything. Thief is its own vocation. Even though, and this was, because it's interesting, because I also had that notion of like, oh, I don't want to be a fighter because he's the basic class on the first game, which is why I would always transition to assassin. But the reality is the fighter was a very capable vocation even in the first game. You don't have to upgrade to the advanced vocations. That's the thing. We all think that, oh, the advanced vocation, that's what you upgrade into. But the reality is every vocation is its own vocation. So you don't need to upgrade into the advances if you don't want to. You just want to do it so that you get like the augment portion of it. So technically speaking, you should probably play all of them at some point, so long as you have an augment that you're interested in.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. On that topic as well, the advanced vocations in both DD2 and DD1, although like they are classed as advanced, and it does, like Rurikhan was saying, make sense that it's like your natural progression to like level up and get more powerful. The fighter and the sorcerer are like different classes to the mage and the warrior and the sorcerer versus the fighter and the mage. So the fighter is sword and board. The warrior is two-handed, like berserker almost kind of playstyle. So that's two completely different playstyles, even though same color, one's starter, one's advanced. You can't use a shield on a warrior. You can't use a greatsword on a fighter. It's two different playstyles, and it's the same for the mage to the sorcerer. Sorcerer is like comets flying down, whirlwinds going off. Mage is like lightning strikes, buffs, and heals. So they are like different. They're contained different playstyles, even though they're like make you think that it's your natural place where you're meant to go to.
I remember the first time that I played Dragon's Dogma, I was really confused because I was like, so this mage class evolves into the sorcerer class, but the sorcerer doesn't have any heals. How am I going to keep healing my party? It's like, well, you have to have a mage. It's that simple. You need some character that remains as a mage. Otherwise, you don't have any heals. And heals are very important.
That's why in my experience, most people are going to make their pawn as a mage. Simply because you can then control the exact skills they have, what gear they have. So you can ensure that you have a buff, the correct element of buff, as well as the correct cure spell, and then whatever other useful spells you want to put on them. Because you could always hire someone else's or hire a default one, but you don't, you'd have to inspect them, and then you'd have to keep filtering through the rift until you got one that actually had the support skills that you want. Obviously, when you hire a pawn, they don't level up with you. They're stuck at the level that you hire them at. So that's why having your actual pawn as a mage is so just universally useful, which is pretty much my plan for 2 as well. I think my pawn would be a mage.
That's the thing. I'm playing 5D chess because I already know that there's going to be a lot of people fighting for those mage spots. So I'm like, no, I'm a tank. My pawn's a tank. Okay? Yeah, you're going to get your mage from somebody else. That's all good, but you're going to get your tank from me. Okay, and he's going to be I already have it all planned out because my tank is going to have the shield springboard, so that when I'm playing Mystic Spearhand, he's going to put up the shield and I just get like airtime instantly every time that I want. It's going to be perfect.
I know whose pawn I'm hiring.
I
don't have a tank in my party.
See, it's going to be shield springboard and shield summons for aggro, and it's like he's good. Everything else is going to be whatever. It's just something that deals damage or some AoE or something like that. We'll figure it out, but that's kind of like the thing that I'm going for. So there's also been something in regards to the weapon skill. And I guess I want to start with 2-6 on this one. Did you feel that there wasn't enough complexity when you were playing the game, considering that you're like a newcomer to Dragon's Dogma?
Yeah.
Was it too simple?
It only felt like there was like 4 skills.
Yeah.
That's on surface level though, but you can see there's skills that you can swap to. But in the actual fights, it's not like you can use all your skill anyway, because there's like so much happening. So having 4 skills seems like it's enough in the battle, but when you're actually going through and just for the fun of the class, only having access to 4 skills feels like it's not enough.
So now I'm going to ask you, are you counting the vocation ability amidst those 4 skills?
No. That's why I feel like there is enough for the player to have, but then certain classes have like less of that stuff, don't they? Like we said that the sorcerer didn't have one or something.
The sorcerer doesn't have a vocation skill.
So the vocation skill is like the right bumper on pretty much all of the classes, or triangle in some cases. So here's the thing, okay? Mystic Spearhand, its bumper move to shoot that magical, like, I can't remember the name of it, like imbued bolt that you could charge and it would slow down enemies and it would chain into a teleport or a critical strike. Really awesome. Felt like a whole mechanic and weapon move. Fighter, your R1 is to block.
Yeah,
and parry.
Blocking. It's important.
And
or
parry
with a click, parry.
So
with
there's
a
2 things.
But it's not the same as a charged bolt that slows down a dragon that then lets you teleport behind it and stab it in the back with a critical strike. So for some classes, they felt like a cool, unique mechanic, and for others, it felt like something that like you just block with a shield, right? That is an expected thing if you have a shield.
To me, the thing is, I don't know how deep it's going to get because we've played level 25 classes, right? So I don't know what more the block can do later down the line, because right now it's just block and parry from the stuff that we've seen. But what if it can do something else later? I don't know.
Yeah, because you still get upgrades to each of the individual skills don't you? Because you get the base skills, and we saw a lot of them actually in the menu get upgraded to do more and have more functionality. So
yeah,
hopefully it's one of those things where you can build out some really nice builds, but just having the weapon skills and then your actual vocation abilities, which was a total of 8, wasn't it? I think in total, because
5.
5. Okay, yeah, 5.
Yeah, because it's your 4 weapon skills plus your vocation ability, and then you have like your basic square and triangle attacks, whatever those.
Yeah, that's So
well, I'll just jump in. It is more than just 5 on some classes. So the thief has a bumper dodge or a triangle press, which will do the fang strike or whatever it's called, that goes into like this climbing mechanic. So that's kind of like it has 2. The mage has like quick cast, but it's on its triangle. It also has like a curative sigil that it can do. So some of them actually have like almost like 6, and that's not including basic attack strings. And then some classes like Mystic Spearhand have alternate basic attack strings with like rapid presses or timed slower presses. So there's like, it's weird, not all classes are equal from everything I've looked at in the menus and everything in terms of the complexity of them. But for some classes, I would say it's there and it feels like the depth is there. For other ones, they feel a bit more simple, but maybe that's a good thing, especially if they're like starter vocations, you know, like the fighter being a bit more simple. That's probably quite good. And a fighter is like an easy way into these games for a lot of people. You can block, you're tanky. It's like you just have a sword, you don't have to deal with any crazy timings and stuff. So
yeah,
we don't even know like if the actual combo strings for something like a fighter are where it kind of really, I don't know, maybe it's like secret button presses and orders that you can kind of really do or something to get something more out of them, because we didn't really get that much time on them as well.
There's if they do anything like the original Dragon's Dogma, so the fighter had, I don't know if it was the fighter, because I was always playing assassin, but I think that the core, either the core skill or the augment that does this comes from the fighter. But I remember, like, if you mash the button, right, to just do attack, you do your straight attack combo. But I remember when I was playing assassin, I would never want to do that, because there's a move where you could go like, you strike and then you delay, and instead of him just going and slashing away, it does like this from the top vertical slice, and it would deal more damage. So I was always like doing the delayed attacks with the assassin because they were much more powerful. So there's probably going to be stuff like that as well that is going to increase the complexity of it a little bit. But this is just to say, because one of the things that I've seen a lot of people bring up, and I wanted to provide feedback for them. I'm not saying that they're wrong, mind you. I'm not saying that's like, because a lot of people are saying, oh, we used to have 6 skills. Now you have 4. It's a big downgrade. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying there might be more to it than just that. Specifically with the Mystic Spearhand, we definitely see that, because there's way more depth just to its vocation skill. Because like people that see the vocation trailers that they've uploaded on the official Dragon's Dogma channel, people see the opening of that, wherein you just see him teleport to the griffin, then teleport on top. And that's a combination of doing the class vocation attack mixed in with the class vocation teleport mixed in with a weapon skill. So that's like 3 things that you got to do to achieve that.
Yeah. And it's I did it in the preview several times, but it's not as easy as you would think as well. The timing of the teleport is very tight, and the dash on top that then goes into a downward slam, that weapon skill. You know, if you're just slightly off, a little bit off, and you're not on that point where you can actually stand on top of the monster, then you just basically either don't go all the way up and you just go back down, or you go up and straight down and then you're just on the floor. So it feels really good when you pull it off, but it is a bit of a skill combo tricky. That you've got to do. Yeah. That
was a cool thing about the Mystic Spearhand too, which is a lot of its well, not a lot, but like the actual weapon skills, because the skills of the Mystic Spearhand were categorized in 2 ways. Like if you look at the skills that you're putting in, some of them have the staff symbol, which means this is just a spell that you cast. The other ones have the twin blade symbol, which means this is a weapon skill, and the weapon skills can all be cast from the air.
Wow.
So like even if you're jumping and you do the gap closer, that will still work in the middle of the air, which is kind of neat too.
So when you do the teleport, can you just grab like straight onto them after you teleport? Because I know you've got the option to like stab.
You can. Okay. You can if you press R2, I guess. You just like.
I think it depends on like the angle as well.
Yeah.
'Cause in that clip from the spotlight, it's specifically like he's dashed like right below the belly of like a drake. I think it was.
No, it's
a
griffin.
Griffin.
It's a griffin.
Of the griffin, it's like griffin's like up here. He throws the beam. he teleports, and then he weapon skills to get on top. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can, like, I don't know, maybe. I don't know if you can grab onto like that point of a. It depends where it teleports you to.
Grab onto the belly.
I think you can grab onto, but it all depends. Like Paradise is saying, it all depends on whether or not you're close enough to make that grab. I think that's going to be the challenging part.
Yeah, there was one cool thing I just sort of thought about is the Warfarer being able to use multiple class weapons. Obviously, we've seen it even use the duo spear in some of the trailers and stuff. Like switching from a staff to a duo spear, and then it gains that extra moveset. So the Warfarer looks like it has 3 weapons, and each 3 weapons have 4 skills. So that's going to be really cool to play.
See,
but we know from the spear hand that the shield, when you level it up, increases AoE and duration. So if you can use the upgraded skills on the Warfarer for those weapons, can you then just shield up with duo spear, switch out to something, you know, like our warrior's greatsword, and just go nuts invincible, switch back invulnerable, and then go, you know what I mean? Like that kind of playstyle sounds really cool.
So I was actually talking with Gaijin this morning about this. Apparently he's been reading some interviews, and in the interviews they say that the way that Warfare works is that one of the skills is always going to be the one that swaps to the next class. So the order in which you put the classes, again, this is stuff that Gaijin told me from interviews this morning.
Yeah.
But like the order in which you put the weapons is going to determine the order in which you switch classes. So you can go like warrior, thief, and then I don't know, Mystic Spearhand, and then it goes back to warrior, thief, and Mystic Spear. It's not like you're swapping back and forth. You're swapping in one direction. And the interesting thing is that consumes already one of your skills, so you only get to have 3 skills per class.
Oh.
Instead of having 4.
Does it do something? Is it literally just a switch, or does the switch in itself do a skill?
I think it's just a switch, but again, I don't know. Because the way we see it in trailers, it just switch. It doesn't do anything, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that'll be a thing. Because I was also wondering, because initially I thought, so the vocation skill for the Warfarer is going to be what swaps classes, so then he loses access to the vocation skills, and I was like, that'd be terrible, because if you're a fighter, you can't block. So that wouldn't work, but yeah.
I can't wait to see how it works. I don't know. So that makes it sound like it has even more depth then, because you're having to work around this parameter of the flow of switching between these weapons. So then you'd want to order your skills in a certain way and your weapons in a certain way and play it in a certain way. So maybe that will add more depth to the class in a weird way.
The ultimate thing is that if you want to play a Warfare, you're going to need to play a lot of vocations before you do that to unlock all of the skills and all of the augments and all of the stuff that will allow the Warfarer to work. So it might end up being more like a mid-game thing. I'm just going to be searching for the man that lets me be a Mystic Spearhand, which they've already revealed. It was, I forget what his name is, but he's a dude that just goes around hunting dragons. Yeah. He goes around hunting dragons.
He's got a vendetta against dragons. He's a pretty cool character. I don't know where. I'm assuming he'll be in the human kingdom because he's not a Beastron. But who knows?
Is that how you got your vocations before? Did you go up to the Meisters before, or do you just go to the guild hall? So they've introduced a system where you kind of need to find these random NPCs littered around the map, and I'm led to believe, even though the dude said there's only 10 in the interview, that they're only going to use 10 and not have like some secret NPCs that have additional vocations.
I mean, Itsuno said these are the vocations.
He said there were 10.
Could be trolling. It could be subverting expectations.
I mean, I'll take it. But I figured if they were going to hide one, they would probably hide the Warfarer. Like, imagine people just finding out. Well, here's
the thing. The Warfarer isn't showing anything they haven't already shown. So it's a safe class to show in that it's not like, oh, we've got this really cool hidden necromancer or monk class. It's just like, it's a class that uses the other class's weapons, which we've already seen from those other classes. So although it's like a new vocation, it's not like, oh, this guy can like raise the dead or can do like Avatar style airbending or something. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I want the gun class. Can I have a gun class that has a candle? A class that's all about explosions. That's what we need. Actually, that's even better. Not even like a gun class, just a dude that throws sticks at dynamite. How about that? What's your class vocation? Explosion. Blow stuff
Grenadier
up.
Or something. Have one of those military vests on and just be yeeting dynamite and grenades.
So, how did you guys find the overall traversal of the world? Because one of the concerns that a lot of people have is going to be the fast travel stuff. Like a lot of people are worried about the limitations of fast travel and whatnot.
What, like, I mean, the game does have fast travel. It just has it in the ox cart system.
How many ox carts did you guys find, by the way? Because I only
they were coming in and out of town. Like every time I went back to town, I'd run past one. So they were fairly frequent in that village that we got to play in the preview.
Yeah, that was the impression that I got, but I wasn't sure because it seemed to me like they would spawn so long as you're, if you're playing near a road, there's a chance that one of them will spawn and casually move by, and then you can take it, and it probably drives you to the closest city, I would imagine.
I mean, there's the risk that you get like attacked while you're like, because you can just sit in it, and it's going to be like slower than walking probably.
Yeah, but you have to doze off.
Like, rest to doze, and then you could wake up and be under attack, and then you got to jump out and help. And I quite like that. It adds a bit of immersion. Obviously, it will interrupt your fast travel, which will slow down your progress if you just want to beam through the game. I don't know, though. Like, what I will say is, and this is the same as it is in Dragon's Dogma 2 to Dragon's Dogma 1, is running outside of a town just drains your stamina. So, like, just running through the world is a bit of an annoyance, just like it was in the first game, because you're like running, you run out of stamina, then you're walking, and you're waiting, and then you're running, and then you're going to get into a fight. No, I got to stop. I got to get my stamina back before I go in the fight. And that's going to be the same thing in the second game.
Which is weird because people were telling me, I did like this Q&A live stream, and people were telling me, this publication said that it's going to be good because you no longer spend stamina while you're running outside of town. And I was like, wait,
they lied.
That's not true. I'm pretty sure I was spending stamina because I spent a long time running over the map trying to find a Minotaur, and I was constantly having to stop.
Was there something wrong with our build though? Because I've seen like a couple of people have like said that, so I don't know.
So here's what I think, because what they said is outside of combat, you don't spend stamina, and what I've noticed is if you're in town, you don't spend stamina. If you're inside a city, you can run all you want and your stamina doesn't run out. So that's probably how they reached that conclusion. They were running in a town and they're like, oh, my stamina doesn't run out here. But the second you exit town and you start running, your stamina starts draining straight up. Okay. So I kind of feel like it would have been better if the stamina only drains if there's monsters close to you. I think that would work, because that way, if there's no monsters, if there's no threat, what exactly is the stamina achieving? It's just slowing me down for no reason. So
I completely agree. That would have been a quality of life update, and I'm guessing it's just against their like vision for the game. And I think they said in an interview as well, the reason why fast traveling is the way that they've done it, and it's not just anywhere from anywhere instantly. I'm pretty sure what the game director said in the interview is that you only need that kind of fast traveling if it's a boring world.
Yeah.
So his vision is he wants you to go through the world and explore and encounter the random encounters that you have and the different quests that can pop up along the way. So it's by design that he wants you to be on foot going through that world, which again, like some people will like and some people won't like, but that's the vision for the game, right? So
I'm not too sure about their travel vision as a noob though, because remember the gondola incident? You basically had to roll the whole gondola to you just so that you could get on it. But by the time you rolled it to you, you might as well have just walked to the other side of the gondola anyway. So I'm not too sure if that was such a great mechanic right there.
I'm going to blow your mind, 2-6.
Yeah.
You can have the pawn do it.
Yeah, but the pawns, you still have to wait for the pawn to rack it up for you.
but I was surprised because like I jump on the gondola and I was doing the thing, and then Zaid, I think was his name, he just says, oh, you can have the pawn do that. You don't have to do it yourself. And I was like, oh, really? Because that is actually cool, because that enables situations where like you could be getting attacked in a gondola and the pawn is doing it and you're fighting things off or shooting with bows and whatnot. That could be interesting, I think. But I've
seen some interesting clips and comments about the gondola. I'm pretty sure I didn't see it, so I don't know if this is the case, but I've definitely read that someone said that it got like destroyed or something. So maybe they're like destructible, but also like you just fall off and die. You have a little fence, but you can just fall off and die. And the harpy, the clip I saw, like you get attacked by harpies when you're riding this thing. So You're not
the
even
most
safe
dangerous
on the
thing in the
Yeah,
game.
you're not.
And what do harpies
thing.
like to do in Dragon's Dogma? They swoop in and pick you up.
Yonk.
And as soon as they pick you up and you start moving away from that gondola, you're done.
Don't get on the gondolas, guys. They're too dangerous.
The harpies are playing a very dangerous version of the crane game. Except they always grab for some reason. They never miss like the actual crane game. So yeah, that's fun. What was the out of all the monsters you guys got to fight in the preview? Which one was the most interesting one?
It's a tricky one. I obviously really enjoy. I think from an enjoyment perspective, the Drake was like just the fire, the theme.
Did you guys kill it?
To its back. We got like a couple, maybe like 1.5, 2 of the bars off. The thing is, we didn't commit the time to killing it.
Yeah, of course.
It was the same problem as the previous preview. In the previous one, we were like all in on this Griffin. We do like peanut damage because we're underleveled, but we're gonna try and take it out. And it worked out because we got the amazing flying over the city. We went back to the nest. The second Griffin came in. It was really really cool. But that was our whole capture time pretty much. We couldn't experience the other things.
Yeah.
And although we had a longer time on this other preview, you know, we had the Magic Archer as well, which we wanted to commit some time to, and also we were aware that we could switch vocations, so we wanted to get a bigger breadth of capture. So if we committed to taking on that Drake, I think it would have been almost all of our capture time, and I don't know if it would have been worth it, because once you fought it for 20 minutes,
You get the idea.
had seen it, you got the idea, you saw its moves. So I think enjoyment-wise, the Drake, outside of that, I think the Golem was cool, because I always liked the Golem from the first game. Like people don't like the Golem in the first game because they think it's a bit boring, maybe a bit easy. You just take out the sigils and destroy it. But you know, it looks visually improved in this one. It has like the cool laser beam move. It has all the glowy sigils. I didn't enjoy fighting it with Magic Archer because I only had like one move that did physical damage.
The hailstorm.
Yeah, so that was like you just had to like spam that if you wanted to succeed. But the actual like watching the fight and imagining what it will be like to fight as like a spear hand or a fighter, I think the Golem was actually pretty cool.
How about you, 26? Any favorite monsters?
No, it's definitely the Drake, but I've got a question for you guys. Like, how different are the monsters from the original game? Because you are both saying like the Drake was in the original game. Like,
This Drake
crazy.
felt a little bit different. It still has the ability to mind control your pawns. But this one, I feel like he was casting more spells than
I
at
don't
least
remember him casting lightning in the first. Maybe he could, but I don't remember lightning. And the lightning was deadly when he did that in the preview. So like that was new. And also just the visual enhancement of the Drake itself and its fire breath just made it really cool. But outside of that, Cyclopses and is it Cyclopses and Trolls, or is it
ogres?
The ogres and the
ogres,
Cyclopses, they seem the same to me.
Yeah,
you know?
but ogres are still like some of my favorite because of the drop kick. The drop kick is just so iconic. Like I was fighting, so and he got a new move because I don't think he had the puny god move in the previous game, did he? You know what I'm talking about?
Describe it.
So, you guys remember the Avengers, right? So
the one where he grabs like Hulk.
Hulk grabs Loki. It's like bam, bam. So the ogre now has that. He has the puny god move. So he just grabs you and goes like dush, dush, dush. Just like doesn't stop hitting you in the ground, then throws you. It's hilarious the way that he goes off like that. But a really cool thing happened, which you were describing how the NPCs, they have different levels of courage. So a random pawn is walking by as I'm fighting an ogre, and this pawn's like, I'm gonna help. And he starts moving in to attack, and dude, the ogre instantly drop kicks him dead in the face, deletes him from the game. Like he got drop kicked, hit the wall, fell on the ground, and dissipated into a puff of smoke.
Oh no!
I think he straight up deleted that NPC's game file. Okay, it was like poof, this NPC's gone. It was so good. I just love the drop kick on the ogres because they just do those at the drop of a dime. It's just like out of nowhere, boom, drop kick. I love it. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, no, they're satisfying to fight, even though they were largely the same in the first game. They are they're great training monsters as well. Like they're a bit more slow. You learn the game by fighting those those kind of monsters, and you can attack the legs to topple them. Now you can actually grab and yank them. Like I say, I do have great memories of being Strider and climbing on the Cyclops and just like gouging its eye out and getting the drop item, just all that kind of stuff. So they're great to learn it. But yeah, it was the Drake that stood out, and the Golem was upgraded too, I thought. So
yeah, the Golem was fun. So I guess we should touch up a little bit on the Trickster, because I think a lot of people are going to wonder what was it like playing the Trickster, because everybody kind of saw it as a gimmick class. I still have to do my Trickster video. I haven't had enough time recently, but how did you guys feel about the Trickster?
I love it. I know other people don't necessarily think it's going to be like the best or fun class to play, but the actual thing of kind of like outsmarting the enemy and kind of playing it like it's a strategy game rather than an actual action game is super fun. And I just like the fact that the buffs actually do make a massive difference to your pawns. If you have that buff that buffs up your pawns, they do the damage. They do some crazy damage. They do some crazy damage even without the buff, because the AI in Dragon's Dogma 2 is just so on point for the pawns. They're so capable. Like, as someone that didn't play the original Dragon's Dogma, like the fact that they'll pick up the NPCs that are down and like run them to you. They'll go in and they'll have particular strategies. As I said earlier, they will like push over the ogres if they're like unstable and do all of that stuff. Once you buff them with additional damage and you've got like some decent skills on them, I remember the thief doing its spinny move that will take out like half a ogre's bar, like health bar, and it's like, wow. And that's just not even talking about the strategy of kind of throwing aggro, accruing aggro, having the walls up in there and kind of like creating a play space to kind of really just actually you become the troll basically in the game, which is cool.
But as somebody who didn't play the original, did you find the Trickster hard to play? Because I feel like that's the thing. A lot of people are like, oh, it's going to take so much setup. It's going to be annoying. Did you think that it was hard to play?
I didn't play much of the Trickster. It was mostly like Paradise playing it. But the actual... You can make it as hard as you want, because you just need to kind of just like throw out your buffs and just have a good setup for your pawns, and then you should be able to get through most of the fights, right? I don't think there's going to be like massive difficulty from what we've seen in the preview, but that could have just been the way that the preview's balanced. I suspect that there are going to be boss fights where the Trickster is not going to shine, and you're going to have a difficult time because of the way that the Trickster is structured, and we just haven't encountered that yet. But not difficult at all. But none of the classes were like particularly difficult to play either. I don't think running in with the spare hand was literally you just throw on your shield and you're just going in and hitting things. Like, it wasn't difficult. You literally took out like half the Drake's health and we were pretty underpowered. And the same for what we were playing with the fighter last time. You could like basically just block everything and you're good. So maybe the preview demos were tuned down so the difficulty wasn't like massive. But I think the Trickster is just a fun play style.
I'll just chime in and say, I just think it was just a skilled player that was playing them. That's why.
No, you're dead. You're dead. You're dead.
It just looked so easy.
No,
exactly.
Rubbish.
No, but how did it feel, Paradise, if you were the one behind the controller? Because like I'll give my own take afterwards, but how did it actually feel to play? Because again, I think a lot of people are concerned about the amount of setup and how gimmicky the actual class feels, and I didn't feel like that at all from my experience.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested to hear your thoughts. I'll say mine quickly. The first thing is, this was not a pre-set up class. This is something that we both had to individually respec to, buy all of the skills, buy the armor, buy the sensor. So in terms of the balance and how the character was set up, it was obviously not set up to play the Trickster. So there's an element of we may have been like underpowered or overpowered just due to the way that the demo was and the fact that we switched to something that we weren't really kind of like meant to switch to and play in this preview. So that's a big element to remember. A second thing is we're not given like the controls. We're not given time to learn the move set, to like really even to read all of the skills in super depth to get your head around it, because we're there for a limited time. The clock's ticking every time you're doing something in a menu, you know, and you're trying to capture stuff. And then the next layer on top of that is that you've got the staff guys with you. And so like when I'm playing the Trickster, sometimes they're like, oh yeah, do your like, do this move, do that move. And they're doing it to like just to try and let you see the move, right? But it may not have been the opportune thing to do in that moment. But you know, you're chatting with the staff as you're learning what's going on. So there are some moments in the fight where I'll put up 2 of the walls, but that's because the guy next to me is like, "Can you do 2 walls?" And I was like, "Well, I upgraded it and it said you could. Let me do 2." And so in a gameplay perspective, it looks like why have you put two walls like right next to each other? Like that serves no purpose. When the reality is, well, you're not in the room with me with the guy telling me to cast the spell twice. You know what I mean? So that is a layer of it. The fact that you're learning, you've got people talking with you, you're not fully focused on the fight. But what I will say is, people are worried about the gimmickiness of the setup of the Trickster because of the IGN breakdown, where they did some really cool stuff of baiting goblins to jump off of a cliff and all of this like elaborate planning to kill like a group of goblins, which is obviously, that's a play style and you can totally do that. My experience with the Trickster was not that at all. Like, I didn't bother spending half an hour to trick a goblin into jumping off a cliff. Instead, I ran into the double Cyclopses and buffed up, put a wall up, sat in the wall so they couldn't see me and attack me, and just spammed buffs, because the buff makes your pawns invincible for a short time as well. I think the invincibility timer is less than the buff timer, so that's why spamming the red buff, if you can just spam it, you keep them invincible for a little bit, which is really, really cool, because then they can just keep going ham and they have the attack buff. So mine was the opposite of, it's really hard and requires all this setup. I'm like, no, you just drop a buff, put down the wall, throw a load of smoke balls at an enemy to get aggro, go into your spirit form, fly around, drop a clone. The ogres go after the clone, start bashing it, while your pawns are just deleting them, and you're safe in a wall. So for me personally, I actually thought it was the easiest to get to grips with and the most passive one to play, because I was just like, by the time I was fighting those ogres near the end, I was just kicked back in the seat. I was stood in my wall, I was just spamming my buff. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, because when I did this on the spear hand, I'm leaning on the spear hand, you know what I mean? Like, trying to... So I actually thought it was a really fun one, and it will definitely be a good class for farming materials, because it's so chill to play. So when it's like, oh, I need to farm like 20 ogres, or I need to kill 20 griffins for a bunch of these drops to upgrade my armor, Trickster's looking awesome.
So my experience with the Trickster, for starters, I want to call out one thing about that red buff that you're talking about. It also gives the pawns a health decay, so they're also taking damage when you put up that buff. So you got to be careful. It's almost like a berserking buff. So you probably need somebody to heal them while that stuff is happening, because I don't know if the Trickster itself is going to have like a healing spell or something like that. It might. But my experience with it, there was a problem that I encountered, which is when you're playing the Trickster, you can't just be running around like in one of the other vocations, because if you're caught off guard without your pawns, you're done. It's over. Yeah. Like, there's nothing you can do. They're going to chase you down. You can't block. You can't dodge. You're done. And I did the usual thing that we were doing, because you're rushing through. So I fell off a little bit of a tall thing that I knew, I'm going to survive this. This is fine. But the pawns don't follow you. So I'm running around, and suddenly there's like 10 goblins around me, and I was like, oh, my pawns are still over there. And I'm a Trickster. This is not a good position to be in. So I died a lot. So one of the things that I would call out is you got to pay a lot more attention to where your pawns are, because otherwise monsters are going to destroy you. But the cool thing about the Trickster to me was just that it was very intuitive, because, for instance, you're thinking about, oh, we have to put down the simulacrum. Yep, that's triangle. Just hit triangle. Boom, done. It's like, oh, now I have to put the simulacrum somewhere. Yep, R1. It just moves to wherever you are. You just teleport it to wherever you want. It's not a problem at all. Oh, I need to get aggro. Okay, just swing your sensor around. You're good. There's the aggro. And it's going to attack the simulacrum all the way over there. And it really enables some interesting playstyles, because you can put down the walls. Enemies don't know that you're behind the wall. They just know that there's a wall there. They can't get to you. So you just hide behind it, and you're just like chilling. You go into the astral projection. The thing that I even did, which was really fun, because when the goblins caught me off guard, eventually the pawns caught up to me, but they got overwhelmed. And so they also started dying. And I was like, oh, this is a problem. So what I did was I put down a simulacrum, run away, put down a simulacrum somewhere else, run away again to gain some distance. And then I'm like, okay, now put down a wall, go into astral projection, and put the simulacrum in the air where goblins can't reach it, but they can still see it. So they're all just like huddled around looking up, and they're like, oh. And in the meantime, I'm like right in the middle of the goblins, resurrecting my pawns, super chill, no problems. Buff the pawns, kill the goblins, no issues, because they're still just like looking up. There's a simulacrum up there. How do I get there?
Yeah, that's what I really like about it. It's like the big brain class. Like, you're just going in trying to strategize rather than actually like playing it like an action game, and the fact that you can actually just put the simulacrum in the sky. When you showed me that, I was like, wow, that is so cool. Busted, it's cheesy, but it was so cool.
Yeah, but the thing is, they'll start throwing rocks at it at some point, because goblins can still throw rocks, and they'll eventually kill it, but still, it's up there, it's distracting, they're not attacking you, and it's good stuff. So,
there's just real quick, there's actually a mechanic that we didn't use. I'm not sure if you used it. Did you use the Trickster's Possession? This is a class mechanic, not a weapon skill.
No.
I think what you do is you press like triangle and grab or something at the same time, or one after another, while you're like next to like a goblin, and you like grab it and it casts like the simulacrum on it, so it kind of like possesses the goblin, and then all the other goblins will attack him because it's got the simulacrum.
Oh no, Kast gets better and better.
Oh my god, I didn't know that.
I didn't know it at the time. I didn't get to check it out, but when I was going back through the footage and I was looking at various different things, it was like, oh, this is a thing that's there, and that's really cool. Like, you can just possess a goblin, and then all of his buddies will turn on him.
Can you control the goblin, or is it more just like you put the simulacrum in him and that's it?
It says possessed, which makes it sound like you can control it, or the simulacrum controls it. I don't know, but I just know that it's to do with the class, and it is a class mechanic thing, not a weapon skill, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. So the other thing that I would bring up is when I went with the Trickster, I went to fight the golem, and I just buffed my dudes once, and they chopped that golem down to like half health on his last bar, and I was like, wait, what? This was one buff. In the space of one buff, they shredded this golem. And by the way, they were not in danger at all, because I put the simulacrum up. So the golem's just like, I need to get the simulacrum. And my dude's just like chopping him down, no problems. I was really impressed. I was not expecting.
That's another thing. I think some other people are confused about how the smoke and the aggro works, because you put this clone down, the simulacrum, and it basically like diverts the aggro off of you onto that. So all of your smoke attacks, and you can hold it down to do like a throw, build up aggro. It doesn't do damage, it just builds aggro. And you even have a weapon skill that does like a massive sweep of smoke that is like an AoE aggro builder. And that is like, you want to be building aggro. You're playing the class fundamentally wrong if you're not building aggro to then put the simulacrum down and bait everything over to it. So you're not attacking things to do damage. You're attacking them to build aggro intentionally, to manipulate who they're targeting, which would be your simulacrum, so they're not going for you or your pawns. I see some people online looking at gameplay and stuff, and they're just confused as to why like a Trickster is attacking, and it's like,
because you need to build aggro. Because if you don't build aggro,
is the mechanic of the game.
Then they attack your pawns, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. The purpose of the Trickster is to prevent your pawns take damage, so that you can have like 3 damage dealing pawns destroying the world.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to play kind of like the tank almost. Now there was a vocation that you guys played that I didn't get to play, which is the Sorcerer. So what was that class mechanic like?
If I'm being honest, I actually think when we switched to the Sorcerer, it didn't have all of the like core skills to buy, because I very quickly noticed I didn't have quick cast. I'm not sure if that is mage only or if that's Sorcerer and mage. That was something that I just noticed was missing from the Sorcerer, and that's going to be something that you're going to be wanting on a spellcaster, just because those incant times are pretty long on some of the spells. Another thing was we only had, like a couple skill. We didn't really have a lot of options, because when you switch to it's like with the Trickster, right? We switched to it. It's not really intentional for the preview build, so we had to buy all the gear and the staff and everything. So we only had just the basic 4 skills that we could actually do for the spells for the Sorcerer.
So you didn't have the vocation.
I didn't have a right bumper skill. I don't
weird.
Know if I'm pretty sure we bought everything. Maybe you got to level up a bit more to get it, or maybe it is that because you need to unlock it on the mage and it carries over into the Sorcerer. I think that would make a lot of sense. That it's a discipline thing that's unlocked on the mage and carries over. So maybe that's why we didn't have it. So yeah, there was no bumper skill, and I don't really remember if I used the triangle skill or not. Which I think on the Sorcerer, the triangle is a stamina regen, so you cast all your spells and then you're low stamina, and then you hold triangle, which makes you stationary, but you charge your stamina back up so you can keep on the offensive. But it was pretty much fundamentally how I remember it being particularly from playing the mage in the first game. You know, you charge up your Levin, you do big lightning strike. You had that big like frost orb, which I thought looked pretty cool, but didn't really do a lot of damage. And then there was that siphon move, which was also pretty cool. So there was some cool ones, but I think, and again, if you think about DD1's Sorcerer, the good spells came a little
They come at
on.
the end, yeah. So I knew that this wasn't going to be a particularly good showcase for the Sorcerer because of the level. Because the impressive stuff on Sorcerer is when you get to do like Grand Bolide, big meteor strikes coming in from everywhere, destroying the world. That was good stuff. So that will be when those things get much more interesting. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot more to talk about when it comes to Dragon's Dogma 2, unless there's anything. Oh, no, wait, there's one more thing. The siege weapon that you guys found that I didn't encounter. A friggin' trebuchet, a functioning trebuchet. What was that about?
Oh, the actual, like, catapult?
It's not a catapult, it's a trebuchet.
It was a trebuchet. Yeah.
Okay.
They both
I'm trying to think.
They both fling rocks.
Yeah.
It was in the Drake area. I'll fully disclaim. I just ran past. I ran past it, and you know, it clocks in your mind like, oh, a trebuchet.
Yeah.
But then 2-6 spotted the rock and was like, "Hi, hold on a minute, Paradise. Pick that rock up." So I was like, okay, let's give it a try. And then we plod along there with the rock and we drop it in, and then we get a whole cutscene of the trebuchet flinging it.
So it's a cutscene?
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, it cut to a, you know, like a preset camera angle in the, like, you know, off to the side, showed the trebuchet fling the rock and it like banged into a wall. And we had to do it like 3 or 4 more times. What we actually had to do in the end, because that Drake was like following me everywhere. I rested at a camp nearby.
To reset.
Ran back. I think that respawned the rock, but it didn't reset like the number of throws that we had to do. So as soon as I put that rock in, it broke the wall down and revealed like a little loot room, which was pretty cool.
So you guys basically broke the map using a trebuchet.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff around there in terms of,
I was
like,
just gonna say, I'd love to know if it could hit the Drake. If the Drake flies and you put it in, can you just knock the Drake out the sky? Because you couldn't aim it.
You couldn't aim it.
Angle.
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe. Sorry, what were you gonna say, 2-6?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of siege weapons around there. I think there was a ballista that we started using, which is what I thought you were talking about. But then there was like another siege weapon that was angled at like 45 degrees. I don't know if that was the catapult or a ballista or a trebuchet that we couldn't aim.
It was like another ballista, like a bigger ballista, and it was just aimed up in the sky. Like we couldn't aim it down at where the Drake was.
Interesting.
I do remember that one. Yeah, I don't know what that was for.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that we had ballistas in the first Dragon's Dogma. I don't remember if we had catapults, but yeah.
I think you're right. There were ballistas.
There were ballistas,
smaller,
yeah.
though. I think they were like little small ones.
But they fired.
They were like
they fired like explosive bolts, if I remember correctly, because there was this one spot in Dragon's Dogma 1 where there was just like chock full of these high level Cyclops. And I would just go into these ballista and just be like, pow, pow, just kill all of them from afar. It was really good.
I think they were explosive as well, because that first ballista when you're shooting down at the Drake fighting the Cyclops or the Ogre, it was explosive bolts. But it was this bigger one that was aimed in the sky. It must be a story quest in that area or something.
Yeah. But that's pretty much all the discussion on Dragon's Dogma 2. That's all the things that we know about Dragon's Dogma 2 at this point. I wanted to bring us into some Monster Hunter. We recently had the 20th anniversary. Happy birthday, Monster Hunter. You're 20. You need one more year and you can start to legally drink in the US. What's the drinking age in the UK?
18.
18.
All alcoholics. They love it.
So Monster Hunter can already drink in the UK. So there's that. So 2-6, what's your favorite monster?
It kind of really changes, to be honest. It depends. I think I'm not one to ever.
First thing that comes to mind. What?
Gormagala.
Gormagala?
Cool.
Yeah, that's number 4 on the list, which is no, not number 4, number 5. Number 5 on the list. But like, here's the interesting thing that, again, I was talking with Gadget about this morning, but there's actually different tops by region. And Gormagala was like closer to the top in Europe. I think it was like number 2 or 3 or something like that. So we kind of like hard carried Gormagala on number 5.
There you go.
Paradise, what about you?
Dogma all day.
Jesus, where is he? I don't remember even seeing. Oh, here he is, number 31.
No, I'm only joking. It's Nergigante.
Oh, Nergigante.
My original was Seregios.
Poor Steve, man. Pour one out for Steve. He's all the way down there somewhere.
But since World, I think Nergigante is just an iconic monster. Such a fun fight once you've learnt it. Really, really cool monster design. I love the spikes, and you have that that window to break the spikes, and it's really satisfying when you knock him over because you've broken them all off. And also, I just think, for me personally, the story of Nergigante being it's like the natural balance of nature. Nergigante is there to take down the elder dragons that are just wrecking the ecosystem. So I just think Nergigante is really cool.
Are you just switching teams because he's number 2 on the list? Is that what has happened here?
I just got that hunter mind.
He was a popular monster. He's like, it's my time to shine.
Were you guys surprised by Lagi being as high as it is?
No, I think our monster's super cool. Super cool. I just have distinct memories of fighting him as soon as the underwater battles were introduced, and I think it not being in is kind of given people that longing to see him back in the game as well, and the fact that people want water in again now as well. It's cool. Cool monster.
So it's interesting. My favorite monster is all the way down in number 73. Seething Basel Goose is all the way down in 73. Yeah. But I must say, it is very interesting that the actual base form of Basel Goose is number 52 because everybody refers to him as the B-52 bomber.
Yeah, it's very good. Fixed, rigged list.
100% rigged.
I'm surprised, not higher, because Basil was pretty iconic for a lot of people, and you've seen him talked about, all the memes of the bombers and all that. I'm kind of surprised. He's not higher.
I expected him to be higher as well, but so we also got the announcement that Monster Hunter Stories 2 is coming to PlayStation 4, which is pretty cool. And Monster Hunter Stories, I think we already knew that it's coming to PS4 and Steam and Switch, which is about time. Should have come in earlier, I feel like. Before 2 would have been the perfect time.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, And it was already available on iOS. Obviously, this is the remake. Or the remake. Is it remake? Remaster. Not remake.
Remaster.
Yeah,
it's a remake, but it's also a remake master because they've done the VO and
that's what I was
introduced the gallery and stuff, but it's a remaster.
It's kind of like a remake because of the VO. Almost because you require quite a bit of effort to just put in VO at least. So
and they've updated the graphics, right? So it is like a remake, but maybe it's just not up to their remake standards. Because if you look at Resident Evil, where they've fully redone everything,
that's a very, very different thing in there. But so I also wanted to bring up Granblue Fantasy because we haven't talked about Granblue Fantasy in so friggin' long.
Yeah.
That's a big week for Granblue.
That's a what?
It's a big week this week for Granblue.
Yeah, because they're adding Lucilius. So I wanted to ask, so what did you guys think about Granblue? I guess, Paradise, you can start, because now we've all played it, we've all finished it, we've all done a buttload of farming on it. So what were your overall thoughts on it, on Granblue Fantasy Relink?
My biggest takeaway is I had a bunch of fun in the game. I think it was a tremendous experience as just a contained RPG package. I completely agree with, I think, the overall sentiment that the story could have been longer, could have been a little less cliche. However, I never went into Granblue for the story, and maybe some people did, and that's why my experience is disjointed from theirs. I went into Granblue to try a bunch of characters, to do a load of crazy moves, take on a load of bosses with with people online, with 2-6 in the party, and to do those like in Monster Hunter, you used to call it getting into high rank or beyond, to get into that end game proud level difficulty. So for me, the story was like the little taster, and then the end game farming was the meat that I wanted. And we got quite a lot of hours in grinding out all of the content, farming Slimepeed, farming a load of Terminus weapons, building up a couple characters. I had a really great overall experience. I just think it's a missed opportunity that it wasn't. And I said this in my review, and some people hated that I said it, and some people agreed. I think it's a missed opportunity that it wasn't an actual live service game, in that a new character being added every month with a load of new bosses to fight. I think if every month there was another character and a bunch of bosses and some new sigils and maybe a couple more weapons, this would be a game that you would just keep playing all throughout the year, and you would just never stop playing it. I think that's what it would be if it was a true live service game. And I know people don't want live service games. It's a dangerous thing to say, but I think this is the one game that would have benefited from it.
But let me help you out there a little bit, Paradise. A live service game in the same fashion that Monster Hunter World was a live service game. As much as they say that it wasn't, that game received regular updates. It was free, and when it was receiving updates in Iceborne and thing, it was like the best experience to get those new monsters every month or so. And it was the monster was revealed, then we got to play it, then we got to find a new armor, and then it was like it kept us in the ecosystem. And once those updates stopped, world kind of didn't fall off of a cliff, but the excitement around the game kind of tapered off in a way. So
I mean, so long as it would have an end, very much like World and Iceborne did, I'd be kind of okay with it. It's like, to me, I just think that it's important that these games get to a point where it's like, okay, now the game is over and we're going to go off, we're going to go do something else. Because otherwise you run into the risk of just like, oh, let's stretch this game out until the end of times. And I don't necessarily think that every game needs to do that, and there's already too many games doing it. So I think it was smart of them to have like a self-contained experience and just like, hey, this is our thing. Now we're going to add a couple of more characters, a couple of more dudes, and we'll see what other quests they have in mind for us. Because there's still stuff coming down the pipe for that game. But
I'll just say real quick, I think if the game had a story that was double or triple as long, I would agree with you and say, as a self-contained thing, you had this complete long experience of a story and the end game to farm. It's all a contained thing. Great. But the reality is, it was a like 5 to 10 hour story, depending on how incredible at the combat you were. And for some people, they stop there. For other people, you can choose to go on to do the end game and multiplayer grinding. And that's why I think it would have been more acceptable and well received if it was like, don't worry, guys, next month's a new character and a couple more fights, and then the month after that will be another new character and another couple fights and a new sigils to upgrade your character with. I think if it had that, I would be more inclined to agree, but I still think it would have been a good live service if they went down that route.
How about you, 2-6? What was your experience like?
Yeah, also I like Paradise was saying, I was hoping for a bit more out of the story. I think this could have been a game of the year. It's going to be a game of the year for a lot of people because I've already seen it in the comments, but for me in particular, if it had that strong lore actually integrated into the story, we had like a bit more breadth and width to the actual campaign, then it's good. But the rest of the stuff, the end game, excellent. I loved it. You were talking about like difficulty and stuff when you were there. I think towards Proud, it could have needed another level of difficulty. Like we needed one higher than Proud, and then I think people would have been a bit more satisfied with the end game. I don't like the drop rates for certain things, especially how they're introducing some things that we'll probably talk about in a minute. That's what's killing the game for like a lot of people. It's like you've got these items that are really sought after, and they've identified which ones are going to really be good for your build because they've made them the lowest drop rate possible for people. And it kind of, a lot of people have been saying it's burning them out, and I can understand why. For us, we kind of got our builds to a place where we could complete all the content, and to a place that we were happy and kind of like left it because we knew it was going to take too long, based on how much we did already grind and we had other games to cover. But there's little mistakes that they've made, but the overall product is excellent. Like for their first shebang into like a proper console action RPG, top grades for them. I want to see them go at it again and kind of be a bit more like balanced about how they do some of their things. It doesn't feel super balanced in some places.
Yeah, I think that a big portion of my experience, and people were obviously pointing it out because I was live streaming the whole thing, right? But a big portion of my experience was also made significantly more efficient, let's say, because I had 2 other people playing with me. So when we hit the end game, a lot of people hit a wall because like, oh, now I need to upgrade these 3 other characters that I've been kind of neglecting throughout the game, and I have to spend some time upgrading those. And me and my friends, we didn't have to do that. It's like, no, it's the 3 of us. We're good. Like the NPC can be a piece of trash. Doesn't matter. We'll figure him out later. And we would just kept going and kept pushing. And we only really stopped. First, it was on the exchange, I think, from Maniac to Proud. That was the first time where we were like, whoa, because that's when you get Bahamut Versa, I think.
In the air, on the like the sigils in the sky and everything. Yeah.
So when we hit that one, that's when we first like, hey, we failed a quest, which to me, it's like we should have failed a quest before we got to that point because we didn't optimize at all. We were just running around, just slap on whatever sigils we grab and just murdering everything first try. I think the critical gauge, the way the critical gauge works is also way too forgiving because you can like drop 10 times in a fight and it's fine. Just keep going. You can just keep going. It's not a problem. But, Bahamut Versa killed us. And then it's like, we had to do 2 tries before we killed it because we actually, okay, let's step back, optimize this a smidge, killed it again. And then the next thing that stopped us was the black evil worm or whatever it's called, the black dragon that you fight in Proud.
Oh, yeah, with all the waves and stuff. Yeah.
That required a bit more strategizing. And that's when we kind of like, okay, now we stop. And now we optimize. That's when we actually started optimizing our characters. And then from that point onwards, there wasn't many breaks after that. We just kept pushing through after optimizing. But the thing is, I still think it's a tremendously fun game because whenever I criticized its difficulty, people saw that as me saying, game's not good, it's too easy. It was more like, it's a little bit too easy. I love this game. It's fantastic. Having a blast. Wish it was a little bit tougher. But people are just ready to read everything into the super negative. So the moment I say it's too easy, no, it's because of this and that. And it's like, no, it is a little bit easy. I think, would you guys disagree that it's a little bit on the easy side?
Oh,
like yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, to emphasize, that doesn't mean bad or not
exactly.
fun. If anything, it was an absolute blast to steamroll pretty much every monster in the game. Even like you say, the Bahamut Versa, was it?
Yeah.
Once you realize that how like kind of OP blocking is for certain attacks, like there are certain attacks that would one-shot you.
Yeah, you just block them.
It was just like, meh. I didn't even feel it. So once you realize that like blocking is pretty just necessary for easy moding phases, yeah, the game is definitely at certain points very easy, but that doesn't at all mean not fun because one of the funnest games. And again, co-op, like not a lot of games that are that fun and have this like crazy moves that you can do and bosses actually let you play with your friends. And that is something that I love. So the memories of us doing Piet A, is that how you say it?
Or Tomagod.
Like that was just like, oh, this is the coolest fight in the game. I can't believe they hit it this deep. Do you know what I mean?
That fight was really awesome. Unfortunately, here's an interesting thing about PlayStation 5 versus PC. The drop rates were broken on PS5. So like for instance, you guys know that robot? What's the name of the robot? I forget. Utani or something like that.
Oh,
I forget.
Taiyu
Itar. The Taiyu Itar. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that robot, he had like a drop, which was like the thing on its forehead or whatever.
Yeah.
And that thing on PS5 would not drop from the boxes. Ever.
Is that why people were looking for it so much on the forums? I was like,
exactly.
I had 4 of those.
Yeah, you had a bunch of them because all you guys had to do was kill it. You never had to actually farm it. On the console, the only way we had to get it was when he does the thing that he exposes his legs, you have to break all 4 legs without making him go into enrage, and then he falls over and exposes something on his head. Then you have to jump on top of it, break that thing, and that is your chance of getting the material. So I actually made a guide to tell people, like, listen, you just go in, do this thing, break the legs, and if the material doesn't drop, leave. And then come back and do it again. And people were confused because everybody was telling me, what do you mean? I get it on the chests all the time. And I was like, this is no way, because I'm playing with 2 other people and we're all having the same experience. It was broken on PS5, the drop rates. Not just that, but also Pietà. Like what was it called? The special part that Pietà would drop. It would not drop in
the mana.
The Luna? The lunar.
The lunar, the lunar
Lunar
thing.
cell.
The lunar cell. So that would also never drop in boxes. 100% no drop rate.
Rough.
So you had to break the tail. It was the only way to get it. And so basically that's what you do. You'd go in, break the tail, leave. Go in, break the tail, leave. It was the way to farm it. There was one time where I was so unlucky. I killed that thing, I'm not kidding, for 2 hours straight and didn't get a single one.
Don't worry, they'll introduce it for $2.99 on PlayStation.
So before we get to that though, what was your favorite character, Paradise?
Oh, that's
what was your?
I mean, obviously,
what would you say was your main?
Main was Siegfried by far.
Siegfried, okay.
You know what I would describe? I can't say that Siegfried is like the coolest character.
Of course not, because that's going to be Eugen. Of course, 100%. Yeah, keep going.
But what I can say about Siegfried is that he's fun to play, and
he is
easy to play. I would say once you get good with his timing of the different timed inputs of his attack, because you just keep hitting. You don't stop. You're not gonna get interrupted. You can like other characters. They have to be like, oh, he's doing his move. Oh, I better run away, or I better do my ability, or I better perfect dodge this. Siegfried's just like bing, bing, bing. You just keep going, and it just feels so good. And so I loved playing Siegfried. But I don't know if I would say he was like my favorite, because some of the other characters had like really cool play styles, and even though I would say EO wasn't like an amazing character in terms of like spectacle and crazy moves and combos, if you got that fully charged meteor strike as EO on a monster when when the stars aligned and all the damage was and all the multipliers are up, seeing those numbers come down was so satisfying. So I don't know, I actually played quite a few characters, but I mained Siegfried. So
see, EO was the only way that my friends found of beating me on the MVP. 2-6, what about you? What was your main character?
So I only ended up picking Percival because my girlfriend, she was like, oh yeah, that guy looks cool, try him out. And it's a character that I would never normally pick as well, because not necessarily my style. I like playing as like usually the cool looking like lady characters in the game, so I probably would have gone for like
Narmaya.
Yeah, Narmaya.
You and every other player in the world. Yeah. Narmaya.
Percival busted. Like the more I started playing as him as well, like I played through him after an hour. I was like, all right, this guy's all right. Some of his abilities are okay. Because at the beginning, Paradise was like at the top of the list for like DPS, and then gradually as we started getting towards end game, Percival started coming into his own stride. I was like, this guy's busted. And then Paradise took me back over for a little bit with Siegfried, and then Percival came in right at the end when we got like supplementary damage and all those sigils coming in. I was like, wow, the damage is through the bloody roof. I was like, yeah, this is my guy. And he's like super knightly, and he does his like little thing. It's a very cool character, and I think that's one of the strongest points of the game is obviously like the differences in all of the characters that you have and the variety that you had across the board, which is why, again, it not being sort of that like live service thing where they're introducing a lot more characters, like maybe even 3 or 4 characters at a time. I know it's not necessarily reasonable and because of the development time and all of that stuff, but man, the amount of characters that they do have in a roster for Granblue Fantasy, it's almost like a disservice for them not to introduce some of those characters that they have.
There's a character that has a cannon. I want that one.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been shown this character. She has a big cannon. I was like, that one needs to go into the game so that I can play it. I wonder how they make that thing work. So I'm curious about one thing, though. You're playing Percy. Did you use the animation canceling tech?
I did not. Anybody that uses it is no.
I'm joking. Fighting words.
No, I'm joking. No, I think any mechanic that's been left in by the devs that you can get some extra DPS in the PvE game is fine. By the way, that is a joke before anybody comes for my neck. But I didn't actually, when it was first introduced, like I didn't know about it, and we had to switch over to like Final Fantasy during that time, which was. I wanted to play more of Relink and try out all of this cool stuff that was introduced as mechanic, because I think everybody's got an animation cancel now. I think even Charlotte's got one and all of these other characters. So it's interesting to see that is a thing. I don't think it's intended.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Percival's in specifically is not intended, and you can bust through the damage with that thing. It is insane. Because I played a ton of Percy. Percy is amazing. I thought he was going to be my main, but I ended up playing Eugen because Eugen is what I like the most. But Percy is also really, really cool. I ended up doing 3 characters as kind of like my mains, which is Eugen, Percival, and Vayne. And Vayne is just really fun because he just keeps going. I called him Vayne the Train because he doesn't stop. He just keeps going, doesn't stop, doesn't care. He's almost invincible. And then on top of it, he actually has AoE invincibility as well. So you can just skip phases, which is so good. It's crazy.
His damage is through the roof as well. I think he's done like 80 million on like the 60 seconds or something.
What?
Yeah, it's like one of the most powerful characters.
I was not aware of this. There's probably some animation canceling going on in there as well that I'm not even aware of. Because I was using some. Because here's an interesting thing about him. He has a mechanic that there's stuff that reduces his cooldown whenever he does his. I think is it his combo finisher or something like that?
Yeah, his like bar thing that. Yeah.
So what you do is you'd give him a bunch of supplementary damage because that also triggers the cooldown reduction. And then rather than doing the third finisher, because the third finisher is like one big swing, you do the second one where he spins a bunch of times and hits multiple times with the supplementary damage on top of it. And I could be casting shields like every minute.
Yeah, he's so fun to play as well. Like he's just standing there, like just doing damage. He's got everything basically. He's a cool cat.
But Eugen apparently is what everybody was saying. Oh, your character is so busted, so broke. I'm just sitting back, chilling. Like, here's my playstyle. 3 grenades, explosion. 3 grenades, explosion. This is great. I love this character. It's so much fun.
He was a cool character in the actual game as well. Like, he's like the experienced, like, Skyfarer guy as well on your ship throughout the story and stuff, right?
Isn't that Rackham? I think Rackham is the experience.
Rackham's the pilot. I thought Eugen was like the experienced older guy.
Oh yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. I actually liked Eugen's story. I thought was really cool. Whereas a lot of the stories of the other characters, I was like, eh. But Eugen's story, I actually like. It's about like, oh, my daughter and all of these crazy things happen. I was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. I like that.
You listened to them?
I should just skip them. Like, ooh.
I did.
That was just mash A to get through it.
No, you nerd.
I listened to all of them because I wanted to see, okay, so which ones are good, which ones are bad, and it's like there's a lot of ones that I was like, nah, sorry, dude. This story is not good.
Yeah, the Cagliostro one was kind of wild, like because they are like
it's weird. It's an old man.
I don't know if it's like
Cagliostro's an old man.
Bodies. Yeah,
she's a spirit that inhabits a body because she reincarnates and like from her like alchemy stuff and stuff. So
yeah, it's kind of weird, Cagliostro's story, but yeah, it was. I think that overall, Granblue Fantasy was really good. My biggest thing is still I wish it had been a little bit harder, but we are getting an update with Lucilius coming in actually tomorrow, which might be when this goes live. I don't know exactly when I'm going to be able to edit it, but yeah, on the 14th there's an update to the game for Lucilius, which I'm probably going to live stream, hopefully, because I want to check that out because supposedly it's going to be really hard. So we'll see how that pans out. But it also came with some not very good microtransactions. Let's put it like that. Now, I want to point this out because a lot of people are already like, "Oh, why are you getting so upset?" It's like, I'm not upset. I don't care. I'm just calling him like I see him is what I'm saying. Like, I don't like the microtransactions that they are doing to the game because they're selling items that I think are very important for progression. And even though it's a one-time purchase, I just don't like them selling things that affect gameplay this much. Like War Elemental is a major sigil. Like there's people
it's Abyss. It's best. Yeah. Like best in slot every character. There is no character that does not benefit from it, and it will straight up give you 20% more damage. And more against weaker element monsters that are weak to elements. But I was going to jump right in and say, I didn't get my one until 100 hours in, after we had already beaten everything in the game.
Me too.
2Six got his as we were playing through the post-story difficulties. So there was a large period of time where I was like, God damn, you know, I need it and I'm not getting it. And I'm not getting that MVP because of it. I don't know if I feel bad about that one being a paid for purchase. If people were in my boat, which is that I'm playing with a friend or with friends that got it and I don't have it, and it makes me feel like I'm not doing as much damage, I'm not seeing the gold damage numbers, and it's like, well, for $3.99, I could have it.
But see, that's precisely part of the reason why I have a problem with it, which is like, so the developers have this thing as a very low drop rate, and now they're selling you this thing. And to me, it's like, well, now you're incentivized to make it even rarer so that I buy it. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but I'm saying it just provides the developers with the complete wrong incentive as to how they should be balancing it, which ultimately there should be a way for you to farm War Elemental in the game, because it's that important of a sigil. And I've heard people say in my comments, War Elemental's not that important. And it's like, yeah, because the game is easy. Nothing is important. You can go and you can, just put 5 damage cap sigils and you're good to go. Like, you don't need anything else, really, because the game's not that hard. But ultimately, everybody wants to min-max, and War Elemental is one of the most important sigils in the whole game. Easily, if not the most important sigil in the whole game. It's pretty much, like you said, it's Abyss. So the fact that it has a very rare chance to drop, and by the way, people might think, oh, he's salty, he didn't get one. I have 5. I have 5 War Elementals. I don't give a damn. This means nothing to me. But fundamentally, I'm just thinking in terms of the game balance, and for new players that jump into the game, they're all going to feel tempted to just be like, oh, 3 bones, I can just get the sigil right now. I can just have it right now. I think it's the wrong incentive. Like, I would think
the story with it.
Yeah, exactly. Just play. But I think it's the wrong incentive for the developers. What do you think, 2Six?
It's the fact that, as you're saying, people are kind of, it's the concept of it, right? It's not just what we have at the moment. It's War Elemental, okay, it would be fine, but it's what War Elemental in a pack actually represents. If they swap that over for something that is even more sought after for people that are like us, that have properly like ground out the game, like supplementary damage 5+, which is, by the way, like 0.0004 drop chance. So if you compare that to something like Monster Hunter, where you're playing something like for like gems that are pretty rare, and that's like a 1 to like 2% like drop chance per hunt. And sometimes you gotta grind that out for like a number of hunts. This is infinitely worse. People have worked out the drop chance for this. If you're trying to get one with a good stats, you're probably never ever going to get it. So if they introduce damage cap with supplementary damage on a sigil, then everybody's gonna want to buy that. And it's only one step away. All you have to do is just like change the values for them on their side, put it into a pack, and then we're good to go. And then yes, they've limited it to 1 purchase now, but what if they made that like, oh, you can purchase 10 times? It's also going to be a massive issue. So it's what they've gone for, considering they had different options in terms of selling skins. There's so many skins on the mobile game, and people would have bought the skins. I would have bought like 20 skins.
I would have bought skins instantly. All the Eugen skins. Give me all of them, like straight up. Yeah. Like I would be, hells yeah, more skins. Yeah, give them to me. I'm ready. Let's go. But yeah, the way that they've went about it, I was not particularly happy. And the thing ends up being that with this type of incentive, and particularly like with the supplementary damage thing, I was actually talking with Dark Hero because he talked about it on a video that he made as well. And he said, yeah, people were saying in my comment section they would just straight up pay $50 for a supplementary damage 5+. And I was like, see, that's the problem right there. Yeah. People are sitting in line like, take my money for power in this game. It's like, how have we gotten to this point? It's ridiculous.
Well, which is cool.
Why is it cool?
I was going to chime in because, the core fan base of Granblue Fantasy will be coming over from like a gacha mobile game. So I think, of course, there's going to be a large portion of the community of people in Granblue Fantasy Relink that love the mobile game and don't have a problem spending. So that I think they're the people that are going to be like, of course I'll spend $50 on a best in slot sigil to outpower my friend, because I already spend $200 on one character in Granblue and I've done that 100 times. So I think those people, in my mind, are expected to be in this Granblue stratosphere because it comes from a gacha mobile game. Yeah. But it is a bit of a weird decision, considering they decided it to be a complete package to then add these packs. But as a devil's advocate, it's $3.99. It could be $10.99.
$2.99. It's $2.99.
You know what
actually.
I mean? $2.99. There you go. So I think it could be a lot worse.
It could.
It could be a lot better.
And it's a one-time purchase. So it's like, at the end of the day, I want to make sure, because people gave me a lot of pushback on this, and it's like, listen, I'm not wishing ill on these developers. Quite the opposite. I want this game to be super successful, because I want to see what they can do on the next one. Because like this one was already excellent. It had a couple of shortcomings here and there that we talked about, but I want to see what they can do on the next one that I think is going to be absolutely amazing. But you know, I just hope that they don't go too deep in this direction, because I don't think it'll be too good for the health of the game itself. But overall, Granblue Fantasy, fantastic friggin' game. Had a blast with it.
Yeah. But like I was saying, which is cool if the drop rates were increased. I wouldn't mind people paying $50 for a sigil if it was quite achievable in a game, but some of them are not achievable. So it's microtransactions should be an option, not the only option. And for some people, some of the sigils will be the only option is to buy them to get them, which is
because the amount of time, the amount of time that you have to grind those out. Yeah, it was my biggest problem was like the War Elemental, and which one was the other one? It was that thing that you can get from the slime. Yeah, the Azurite. The Azurite Splendor. That's like the biggest two problems, because everything else, it's like mastery points. Those are super easy. Like once you get slime peed, those don't even. It's mastery points and experience that doesn't even exist anymore. It's you level out a character in 3 or 4 runs of the slime peed, and it's not even any effort at all. Just grab Brackham or Eugen and just like sit there, mash and square, kill everything. It's not even a problem. So. Yeah.
So they've obviously balanced it right in those cases for those items that you feel like it's not detracting from the overall experience. And I think they need to do that for the other stuff so that it feels the same way, so that we don't feel like we're being cheated in some way by spending our money on it. Because even if it's $2.99, it's like I got my $2.99 here, I can spend that. But it's not that. It's the overall concept, guys. Like and that. So yeah.
So. I don't want to talk too much about Final Fantasy VII because I haven't finished it yet. Because I haven't had time. Because like you guys know, the moment that game released was also when I got my key and I had to like go to the UK, so I was able to play like one live stream session, and then I instantly had to go play some other stuff. So I haven't been able to touch up on it. But you guys got to finish it, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
actually finished the whole game and then half of the game on hard mode, and then we've between us done like all of the VR hard mode missions. So we've pretty much done all of the content that it has.
So very quickly, Paradise, how did you feel about the overall experience of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth?
I mean, I loved it. I will just put out there though, I'm biased to Final Fantasy and to the franchise. It's a franchise that is pretty like near and dear to me. Games that I grew up on that are like formative experiences for me as a gamer. So there's always going to be a bit of a bias. That being said, 7 wasn't like my top game of the series. So being able
Which
to play
one was it?
Remake and then 10 is my favorite.
Okay.
So being able to play through Remake and then Rebirth is a really cool experience for me, because it is reinvigorating to a game that like I never actually finished when it came out, because it was old school Final Fantasy games that are pretty big, and you know when you're like a kid you don't have the brains to like get through some of those later fights, and you just don't have the time. So I absolutely loved it. I think for me, like, it's really interesting now that it's come out and I'm seeing the range of opinions on it, because like I've said in like our review, I actually really like the way they integrated the open world regions and the world intel. I actually quite enjoyed most of the mini games. I thought like 80 or 90% of the side quests were actual like good content, not just filler. There was like maybe 10% of them filler. Shout out to the chicken quest. Which people have played the game, they'll know that quest. That was the worst quest in the game. But everything else, I just had an absolute blast and loved it. I think they did the characters justice. I really like the combat. Obviously, you have to like the combat from Remake to like the combat in Rebirth, but I thought the addition of the synergy things were really good. And I'll tell you right now, Rurikhan, because you haven't finished it, don't sleep on the synergy skills. So you've got synergy skills and abilities. You don't even know what they are yet?
I know, because I'm saying I don't sleep on them because I played when you guys were playing the real thing, I was playing the demo. And in the demo, they just kind of drop you in Junon with no context. So I was like, oh, I'm getting my ass kicked. And then I started experimenting with it, and I was like, oh, damn. I can grab, because I had to fight Phoenix without, because that was the hardest thing that was on the demo. And I was like, oh, I got to beat Phoenix. So I'm fighting Phoenix on the VR missions, and it's just destroying me. And then I was able to like, okay, let's do this synergy thing. And what I did was I got Cloud, Barrett, and Red 13, because their synergy abilities with Cloud is just like they throw stuff at me and I bounce it like a baseball bat right at the boss. And so basically I would just run around the map and go like bang, 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 run around, bang, bang, just kill everything from range. So I used a lot of synergy abilities. And then when eventually they would stop spawning mobs, I was just like, now all of the synergy skills or whatever, when you actually get to do the big drop-offs, synergy skills, summons, limit breaks, everything all at once before it actually recovers. So that would be the strategy. So I use that stuff.
No, I'm really glad that is the case, because I feel like I didn't really start using them till like way late into the game.
Oh yeah.
And what's the biggest bonus of those synergy skills is that they are massive for your ATB gauge on both party members who do the skills. So if you're doing bullet battle with you and Barrett, you're both chonking up your ATB. Yep. And if you have characters like Aerith who are really slow to build up that ATB to do the big spells, and then you realize like Aerith has like Spellblade with Cloud, where you do like a big charge and then a big wave attack forwards. Not only does that thing do thousands of damage, it gives you like a whole ATB gauge if you hit it. And that's a pretty quick thing, and it's free to execute. So stuff like that they've implemented breathes life into a combat system that already existed in Remake. And it took me a while to even understand that was how like vital it was.
Because I had to play the demo, I've been trying to work out, as a matter of fact, I've been trying to work out the synergy skills without even having them at some point, because I was like, why can't I do synergy skills on Bear? It's like, well, because you haven't unlocked it yet, you dummy. And I was like, but the demo had it. Just let me unlock all the things.
So funny.
Yeah. But I loved it, and I see people hate the different direction that they've gone. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there are some people that don't like, I wouldn't even say like changes. There are some people that don't like the new direction. There are some people that do. I think it opens up a lot of doors for some cool or interesting things in the next part. So personally speaking, I would say I had a very positive experience with the game overall.
So 2-6, I know that you're a little bit more hardcore fan than Paradise is my understanding. So how did you enjoy it?
We both really love like Final Fantasy. I'm obviously more of a Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8 like fan, but
listen, let me just say something. I'm so happy you said Final Fantasy VIII, because I'm so tired of people slandering Final Fantasy VIII, saying it's the bad one, it's the black sheep of Final Fantasy VIII is the first one that I played, and I love it. Okay.
Yeah, I love it. Squall is the boy. Like, you can't watch the intro of Final Fantasy VIII and then just not love it. Like the bit with the beach and it's got the it's so cool. But from a game perspective, I think it's going to be hard for any game this year, personally, to dethrone it from like my personal game.
Your game of the year?
Yeah, just because it's so. It was the first game from Final Fantasy that made me feel like I was playing a Final Fantasy game like I was when I was a kid. That kind of like sense of discovery, going to different places, trying all this new stuff. Getting like different mini games and stuff like that. I know a load of people don't like it, but the stuff that they don't like, I really love. Like, I love Queen's Blood. Some people in our comments,
Queen's Blood.
I don't know how to play.
So I hate it. It's a good game.
I loved Queen's Blood. What little I've played of it, and because I've played at this point, I think probably close to 20 hours. Because I did the live stream where I did like mostly story stuff, and then even though I haven't streamed it, basically offline, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna complete this whole region, and I have. The only thing missing is a couple of assesses on a couple of monsters, which is annoying. I wish those weren't a part of it, because I'm lazy about assessing, but whatever.
You can go back and do them in like the VR stuff, so you can just assess them in the VR.
Oh, you can assess in VR?
Like okay. Which is kind of like a little cheese. But like the story kind of being a reimagining where it's been long enough since I played the original that it kind of feels brand new, but is also kind of bringing back core memories from when I was a child as well. It's one of those games that I don't think I'll be able to experience with even like a brand new IP because it's so ingrained into me as a person. Like I just love the characters. I love Sephiroth. Is Sephiroth really that cool? Or is it just because like he was one of the first villains that I was introduced as a kid? But no, to me, he's like the best villain like ever. He just always has that presence. He's got some sick music. He's just a cool cat. Even in the like the Nibble demo, you kind of get to see these different aspects of characters and the way that when we were playing them when we were younger, we wouldn't necessarily get to like fully comprehend. There's a particular part that I can't really kind of discuss, but like as you get into the game, you understand it. You'll be like, oh, that's what that meant. Oh, this happened. Oh, they've expanded on this. Wow, this is really cool. People really wanted to know about this particular part of the story. This is a whole thing, but I understand why some people don't like change. But for me, this is like the best thing ever. It's like if they came out with a reimagining of Metal Gear headed up by Metal Gear Solid like 1 headed up by like Kojima. I would just love that.
Yeah. I personally have enjoyed what I've played of it, but again, I've only played the very beginning portions of it, so I can't really say a whole lot. So, but yeah, I think it's shaping up like, again, 2024 has been an absolutely banger year for games. Before we
like
jump
3 months in, 3 months
yeah, we're
in.
3 months in. That's the impressive part. Before we even jump into the next game, like, is there any other game that you guys have been playing or that you've played that you want to bring up real quick? Because I have one final game for us to talk about, which is Rise of Ronin. We got to talk just briefly about that one. We can only talk about the preview stuff, but yeah.
I've been playing Wordle. Do you play that?
No. I've never played What is Wordle?
It's just a word match game.
Oh, okay.
It's the word.
Is it a mobile game?
No, it's online.
Okay.
It's just like you
I was gonna slam you for bringing up a mobile game on my podcast.
I could talk about a mobile game if you want.
No, I don't.
Get a Pokemon Sleep. I don't know actually. Like, did we like Power World came out like right at the beginning of the year? I think did we briefly talk about that?
I think we've talked about that last time already. Yeah, Power World was solid. Loved it. Awesome.
Yeah, I don't think there's really much.
Can we talk about a future game?
What future game?
Stellar Blade. I'm excited for that game. It looks cool. Everything I see of it is cool.
So let's talk briefly about Rise of Ronin, and then you can tell me what you think about Stellar Blade. Okay, so Rise of Ronin, we played it. We got to do a preview of it, and there's a lot of differing opinions out for this game. So I'm going to just give you a brief synopsis of where I stand, and then you guys can tell me where you're at, because we also can't get into too many details because we can only talk about the preview portions of the game, which is like, they said it's the first 2 hours, but it took me like 4 hours to get to the cutoff point because I just get lost doing open world stuff all the time.
Yeah, if you do any side content. Yeah.
But so my point of it is, overall, the game feels dated, more dated than what you would expect for a 2024 game. And it's not necessarily just the visuals, which I kind of feel like on my preview, because I emphasized on visuals at the beginning, a lot of people thought, oh, you're knocking this game down just because of visuals. No, it's not just visuals, even though visuals are also a very big sticking point, I feel like, which I understand. People are like, oh, but Team Ninja's thing is the gameplay. Yep, I hear you. I understand what you're saying. But at the end of the day, they are charging you $70, and therefore there's a certain standard that needs to be met. And again, it's not just the visuals that feel dated. And me, I feel like the open world itself is also not the most interesting, because it's like, oh, go find this cat. Oh, go kill this person. Go do the side quests are cool. There's a couple of side quests on there that are a little bit more developed than just, oh, go get this cat or go kill this person or whatever. But most of it, again, it's kind of like that. It's old school open world stuff that we've seen a bunch of other times. In terms of the story, we can't really get into it all that much. I'll have more to say on that later. But overall, the vibe that I got was just dated. And the thing was, I asked in my channel, I made a community post where I said, okay, guys, I'm going to do a preview for this game. Tell me things that you want to know. And I'm not kidding. The most asked thing was, how does the combat stack up to Nioh 2? Which is why I said this combat is not as in-depth as Nioh 2. And from what I've seen, I don't think it's going to get to be as in-depth as Nioh 2. Now, you can take that as a positive. You can take that as a negative. It seems like a lot of people that have played the game are actually like, no, I actually like it a lot. Hey, that's cool. I'm just saying it's not as in-depth as Nioh 2. That's all I'm saying. But that's kind of like where I stand. Because overall, I'm still having fun with it. I've still been playing it. And I'm going to be talking more about it once the embargo lifts. But at the end of the day, I just wanted people to be informed of everything that the game was providing at that time in that initial experience.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like how it's been consumed and it kind of being, some people really like it, and some people just like really don't like it. When Paradise normally does like the intro gameplays, so like if we're going to upload like the first like 20 minutes of a game, Paradise usually does that because when it comes to those gameplays, I want to be perfect, and it kind of makes the whole process a bit longer. But Paradise like will play really good, and I'm like, all right, cool, he's good enough to do that. But he came to me and he was like, bruh, like, let me show you this game. He's like, this game is bad. And I was like, nah, you're just roasting the game because you don't like it.
This
like,
game is what? Come again?
It's bad. It's so bad. Yeah. And then he was like putting out these little things. I was like, it's all right. But then when he started showing me like going around the towns and the missions, and you can only see like a few enemies around the place, and the combat kind of really being reduced, and them taking away some of the stuff that is like core to being the fun parts, you can see like it lacks polish where it should be, and that level of like what we expect from this game. So it just felt not like terrible, just as we were saying, like came to the conclusion, it's like it just feels like an okay game at the moment. It just feels like generic, and it's the bar for games, particularly in this year, has gone up. So while this would have been okay in any other year, it doesn't feel like excellent. But this is a preview. It is the only first 2 hours or so of the game. So we can't say that's what the whole experience is going to be like. And a lot of those experiences for games like this, like Nioh, come from like the boss fights or some sick stuff that happens in some like crazy mid-game or end-game like boss fight encounters. But everything surrounding it needs to be good if they are going to make the game an open world game and kind of go away from that kind of more linear path that like games like Nioh or any of the other like Souls like games have, where they're kind of more boss rush than like open world, go here, find a cat, as you're saying. But like you can expand on your own opinions, Paradise. Hopefully I didn't like detract too far away from it. So
it's a loaded topic to talk about because it's not just a brand new game that came out of nowhere and we jumped on to give it a try. It's a PS5 exclusive, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly.
So it's designed for the PS5, so there's an expectation there. It's a Team Ninja game, so there's an expectation there in terms of combat depth and variety and how good that feels. And then it's also, in my mind, inspired by games like Ghost of Tsushima. And I don't just say that because they're both like in Japan. I say it because they're both combat action games with an open world in a Japanese setting. And so my experience, and I was quite hyped for the game actually. I was very excited for Rise of Ronin. I was like, March 22nd, no, like two big games at once. These are two games I'm really excited for.
When I received the key for Rise of Ronin, and I was like, oh, I'm getting it. I'm actually going to be able to cover this properly. It's going to be amazing. Like I was super hyped to jump in. And then I jump in and I it's like the first thing that kind of just like hits you like a ton of bricks is like we're talking about, it is the visuals. And at the end of the day, visuals are never going to stop me from playing a game unless they're just like terrible. It's like these are not terrible visuals, but it's just when you compare it to anything else that's a PlayStation exclusive, you're like, but that's okay. But then you're like, okay, that's fine. Let's just look at the gameplay, and that's when you start going like, oh, this doesn't have the same depth as something like a Nioh, which is weird because the idea here is you even have the combat styles which almost work like the stances that you have in Nioh, but the difference is In Neo, you can just free flow through stances and do whatever the hell you want. So it's like, oh, now I feel like attacking with the high stance so that I deal more damage and it's slower attacks. And now I'm going to seamless transition into medium stance and keep going. And in this game, it's more like, oh, this enemy's got a katana. Okay, then I have to use the 10 stance or the Jin stance or whatever, because it's Chi 10 Jin. And you choose one of those because it's the one that has the rock, paper, the rock to beat the scissors of the enemy. It's not like, oh, I'm free flowing through stances because I want to get to this move. It's more so, no, I have to use this one because this one opposes the enemies. And if I use something else, I'm just going to be weaker, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's also an element that I'm always really conscious of in games, considering that we do a lot of like impressions, reviews, and gameplay videos, that the first hour or two of a game is more often than not the most polished, the most presentable part of a game. So I actually go into a game thinking, this is the first impression of the game that has been designed and, you know, tweaked in a way to present it in its best possible format. And so when I play a game for 2 hours, like I did Rise of the Ronin, and my takeaway was I was let down on multiple fronts, it's not a good thing, because that is meant to be the most polished, presentable part of the game, being the first couple hours that you experience. And I think with you were saying about talking about the graphics in the very beginning of your review, I think this is a pitfall that we actually ran into quite a while ago, which is that we talk about graphics and performance in every single review because this is something important to a review, in my opinion. However, I always do it at the end, because you will never, ever win when you critiquing graphics and even performance, because then you're talking about different platforms and stuff, and people will identify with the platform that they bought, and they will identify whether they are like, well, graphics don't matter, I care about gameplay. Or then you have the other people that are like, well, the graphics do matter, I don't care about, like, I want my games to look, this is a PlayStation exclusive, it needs to look nice. So you can't win on either front, and if it's the first thing you talk about, so you're ruffling the feathers, you know.
it's an interesting thing, because the way that I always structure my videos whenever it comes to either reviews or first impressions or whatever, and let me tell you why I do it, but it's always visuals and animation, sound, story, and then gameplay. And the reasoning is, it's the same mentality, like, say you got a plate of food in front of you and you have your vegetables, your meat, and your potatoes. And me personally, I was always the kid that'd be like, okay, let me get rid of all these vegetables real quick, because to me, talking about graphics is not interesting. I'm just like, hey, okay, because at the end of the day, I'm not Digital Foundry. I don't have the software that they have to, oh, let me see the frame rates. I don't have this stuff. Like, I can tell when there's frame rate dips, and there are a few in Rise of Ronin. Nothing too terrible, but like, it does have some situations where the performance definitely feels impacted, especially like when the city is, if you're going into a crowded area in the city. I've noticed that was a little bit problematic in some situations, but it's whatever. It's not the end of the world. But the thing to me is, if I'm not able to do a perfect analysis like Digital Foundry, then it's like, it's not interesting to me to talk about visuals. It's more so, I want to tell you, do I like the art style? Do I not like the art style? How do I feel about all of these things? And I just want to get it out of the way. And then sound, kind of the same thing. I want to get that out of the way. And then story, I want to get that out of the way so that I can actually talk about what I'm interested in, which is gameplay. So that's why I do it first. I just want to get all of this stuff out of the way, and now let's actually talk about what matters. Like, because usually most of my videos, the biggest sections are always, okay, now let's talk about the gameplay. Let's break down the combat, explain everything that is going on, all of the different mechanics. That is the more interesting part to me.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to quickly say for Rise of the Ronin as well, and I did mention this in our preview impressions, and again, it's a preview, it's pre-day one patch. I don't know what changes when the game comes out, but there was like I very rarely call things like game breaking, but this was like bordering on game breaking, like graphical issues in terms of textures and models not loading properly. So I'd walk past a house and it would be like a big blurry block, and then I'd talk to a guy and the rock behind him would be like a pointy, I actually bad
didn't have
thing. That. It's great that you haven't experienced that, but obviously that was my experience, and that was again in those formative first 2 hours of the game. And so I'm aware that these things can get patched. And it can be a listen, thing.
But I'm going to tell you something that I did experience in the preview portion. So I'm walking around, and because I'm recording everything that I'm doing, right, I'm paying attention to the stuff that's going around so that you can do like commentary, right? You're walking around, you do, oh, look at this funny NPC over here, whatever. And as I'm walking around, through the corner of my eye, I look at an NPC, and it almost looked like his hairstyle was changing. I was like, what's this? And so I approached the NPC, and he's got that hairstyle where it's like it's bald in the middle, and then it's got the top knot on top of it. And I was like, oh, I must have not seen it properly. So I start moving away, and suddenly he has a ponytail. And I was like, wait, what's good? And then I approach him again, and it changes again. And I was like, wait, stop. It was a changing haircut man. So I did experience that. But again, that I wouldn't really call that game breaking, but it is a little bit immersion breaking at the very least. At least it wasn't like an important NPC. I think it was just a random guard in the city. So it's whatever. But ultimately, I'm not looking at this as in, oh, I want to find all of the faults for Rise of the Ronin. Because like I was hoping it was going to be amazing. And, you know, I'm still, like I said, I'm still having fun with it. I would actually like to be able to talk more about it, but obviously at this point we can't. But, you know, I'll be sure to give a more precise review for everybody later on.
I'll just give a quick way to like round Rise of the Ronin off. And I think if people are listening, it's obviously like you're hearing a lot of negatives here. The game isn't a bad game.
Yeah.
I think it will be a lot of fun for people who enjoy its combat. I think people that go in without the this is why people do previews. This is why we take the brunt for the previews and the reviews, so people can go in with the correct expectations. Yep. I think if you went into this game thinking it's a Team Ninja game, forget about Ghost of Tsushima, forget about other new big open world games that have come out and been like spectacular. It's a Team Ninja game. You're gonna get combat. You're gonna get like a world that looks all right, and hopefully like things get more in depth and whatnot as you go along, because like you say, there is the stances and the weapon moves and stuff, and we didn't get to experience the breadth and width of all of the combat systems in the first 2 hours, which is what the preview's about. So I think people that sit down and just enjoy it in their own time and for what it is, I think we'll probably have a lot of fun. But again, the reason why I would say, I won't speak for anyone else, the reason why I have put the review out or the impressions out that I have is because I had certain expectations based on the exclusivity, the team behind it, the other games it's competing against, and when you stack it up against other things, it doesn't compare as good as I wanted it to.
Because a lot of people in my comments were very quick to point out, well, this is a more AA budget game than the games that you're comparing it to, and I was like, well, then it should be priced accordingly.
Yeah,
true.
I completely agree. I think that actually would have just checked. Like, if this was like, it wouldn't be, but if this was a $10 game, everyone's going to be like, this is a brilliant game. For
listen, $10 is doing them dirty. Jesus Christ. I'm thinking like,
as an extreme example.
If this was let's put it like this. If this was in the range of like 40 to 50, then I think that my preview would have been very different. The situation here is this is a $70 game, so a lot of people that will be coming in will be expecting something comparable to a Ghost of Tsushima, and this ain't it. That's just the point that I'm getting at. For some people, they might even enjoy it more because they like the Team Ninja combat more than the combat that was in Ghost of Tsushima, and I think that will be the case for some people. But at the same time, for a lot of those people, they want the combat depth of an EO2, which, in my opinion, this doesn't have. You know, it is what it is. Anyway, that's probably going to be it. We're like 2 hours and 30 minutes in. Holy crap.
We get chatting, like, can't help it.
But it's been an absolute blast. Thank you both very much for making the time to talk about this, especially at a time as busy as we are right now. So very quickly, final words, 2-6.
Yeah, play Final Fantasy Rebirth. Relink was good. And Dragon's Dogma looks like it's going to be exciting. Try the Trickster. Good times.
Final words, Paradise.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us. It's always a pleasure to come on and have a chat. I have a blast in these. Obviously, when we do get chatting for a few hours, it can be hard to fit in, but I absolutely love chatting with you. And I'll just say, I'm ready. I can't do it because we got to stay on the treadmill on the bike for content creation. But when Dragon Dogma 2 comes out, I'm going to lose time.
Yep. We're going to lose even more time when that comes out. But anyway, that's going to be it for today's episode of Cast. Thank you all very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all that stuff. There's going to be links to the Eric's Gaming Crew channel so that you guys can go check them out, subscribe, all that stuff. They're going to be providing coverage on everything that we've talked about here. So make sure to do that. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.
Bye-bye.